Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the GDQ Hotfix. We are doing our second showcase of the evening, which is going to be the Legend of Heroes: Trials of Cold Steel 3. I'm going to hand it over to our runner. Let him introduce himself, and you can take it away whenever you're ready.
Hello, everybody. My name is Champion Beef, and this is Legend of Heroes: Trials of Cold Steel 3. If you've never heard of this series or this game before, this is one of the best JRPG series out there. Highly recommend it. This game is actually the, eighth game in the series. So it's pretty deep into the story because all of the stories are connected. This speedrun is going to be S-craftless and modified turbo. S-craftless means we're not going to be using any of our S-crafts throughout the game, which are basically our strongest ways to do damage. The any percent run basically spams them out on every single fight, just instantly defeating everything. And we're not going to use any of them, because it's more fun that way. Modified Turbo means I'll be using the in-game's turbo feature in order to go faster in battles and cutscenes, but I'm not going to be using it on the field map for movement. The reason for this is because it's just a much better viewing experience for everyone. It's a much better playing experience for me. And as a speedrun itself, it puts a lot more focus on movement and how you execute throughout the game. There is one exception to it, and it's the final part of this category name, which is out of bounds. You can use turbo to go out of bounds basically anywhere in the game that you want. And we're going to be doing a lot of that. We're going to be doing this run on the normal difficulty, which is generally the standard for Trails runs. Some people run the easiest, some people, for whatever reason, like to run the hardest. A lot of us just like to run normal difficulty, though. The start of the run is going to be very hectic. There's going to be a lot going on at once, so I'm going to save explanations for when we get into the game's proper tutorial. So just bear with me once we get started here. So I think we're all ready to go. You ready to go to church?
Yeah, whenever you're ready, give us a countdown.
All right. I'll count it down in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So this game is the first game in the Trail series that has a skip scene button. Unfortunately, we can only skip one scene at a time. And like I said, we can go out of bounds wherever we want in this game. It's very easy to do. Or at least I'll make it look easy to do, hopefully. It's particularly easy to do with this character right here. So we're going to get into a battle here, and immediately we're thrown into a boss battle here. As I mentioned, it's a little hard to explain absolutely everything that's going on in this single fight. So I'm going to do my best to do that once we get to the actual game's tutorial, where things will slow down a considerable bit. And if one boss fight for the opener wasn't enough, we do actually have a second one we have to do here.
Let's go.
Basically, our strategy is going to be the exact same as the first fight, which is break the enemies, which I'll go into, and then immediately start pounding on them.
My turn. Sure.
All right, there we go. We're out of the very intro of the game. Again, it throws you really big into it. As you can see, it's kind of a turn-based combat. You've got your HP bars, your MP bars. You've got a third bar called craft points. Craft points are what you use enhanced physical skills for the most part, which is what we're going to be using a lot in the early parts of this run. We also have this quartz system, which is just like a second level of equipment. Quartz are for giving you stats and magic spells. And we'll be using those very much throughout the entire course of the run. So here's the basic battle intro. You can attack. You can use your crafts, obviously, which is what we're doing most of. We swapped to the girl with the white hair, Altina here, because she's able to stun enemies from the front side, which is useful for these first two tutorial encounters, since we don't want to have to waste the time running behind them. So there's also the blue bar of enemy health below their actual health bars, and that is the break gauge. When you break an enemy, you start dealing 20% more damage, and you also kick their turn order back a good amount.
I shall go.
Let's go.
So using effective break usage is going to be a huge portion of this run because it's such a damage increase, and it stalls the enemy's turn and basically wastes them as well. There's also treasure chests in the game. Those are going to be picked up throughout the run, mostly for resources as well as some quartz. The biggest resource we use in this run is called Seventh, which is basically those quartz I mentioned, but like a smaller version of them. You collect them and synthesize them into actual quartz. And casually, you get a good amount of them. But speedrun-wise, you are very, very limited on how many you get because they mostly come from encounters, which we're going to be skipping most of.
Yes.
Here we're going to swap our character into Yuna, this pink-haired girl.
What kind of campus would build a facility like
And we're going to attempt to go through this wall real quick. There we are. So gravity in this game is non-existent until there's something under you and then it exists, which is very nice for going out of bounds. Stairs are also one way. That's a pretty typical game design trick, actually, with stairs being one way. Here we're going to swap around our quartz a little bit to get the right options we need for this next fight, and then we're going to heal up. This fight is the introduction to Brave Orders, which are new to this game as well, along with the break gauge. Basically, they're just an extra effect you can add into the battle itself. Like right now, we do 20% more damage for another 2 turns. And Brave Orders are kind of the bread and butter of this speedrun.
I shall go. My turn. Now.
I'm up.
So I'm trying to damage the boss down here. I can't actually kill this boss until he does a forced heal like he just did. You have to get that enhanced tutorial or else the game does not let you continue. Even if you reduce the boss health to 0. It's quite annoying, but this was actually a very good fight for this enemy. A lot of these early fights are incredibly dangerous to us because we just have so little HP, we have no armor, we have no defensive abilities. Not that we ever get any, mind you. But there's just a lot of RNG in Chapter 1 and 2 in particular. By the time we get to Chapter 3, which is about the waypoint of the run, we're going to absolutely have broken the game over our legs. So here we get to have a pancake on the way home from school, and we get to enjoy some tunes while we go around and tour the campus that we are a teacher at. This is Reed. He is our main character. He's the main character of the Cold Steel series. A lot of people like to call him Reed Cold Steel, even though that is not his name. And some people even like to call him Lloyd, for whatever reason. So going through this game fast is a lot of talking to very specific people and then fast traveling around the map to talk to more specific people. A lot of the routing for this is doing this optimally, minimizing load screens. Here we have a synthesizing tutorial. We are forced to make a quartz even though we don't want to. We don't actually have enough sepith to make any of the quartz we want to. Because when we did that out of bounds earlier, we actually ended up skipping the tutorial fight for S-breaking. So, fitting that this is S-craftless, and we don't even ever see the tutorial for S. Does not have an S-craft for the entire game, because we skipped the tutorial for it. So now we have to tour around our new town. It's called Leaves. It is not fall here. It may be fall outside, but it is April in the game. And we do get to talk to the best dog in video games soon. You're not forced to talk to the dog, but we're going to talk to the dog. And there's a lot of contenders for best dog in a video game. I raised you this dog over here, this little puppy, who can drive an airship and also complete deliveries on his own. I don't know what other dogs can do that. He can't talk, but, I mean, he can fly an airship. And he doesn't have thumbs, so it's even more impressive. So here we're going to do the first major divergence from the any % route, aside from, skipping the S-Craft tutorial. We're going to do a quick side quest right here, because the side quest is going to give us an item worth 10,000 Mira, which is the money in this game. And that is going to fund a lot of our activities for this very first part of the game, because, as I mentioned, we are very weak. So one of the ways we can mitigate that is by buying some accessories that give us a ton of extra HP. Here we have to play Hearthstone, and I kid you not, this is basically Hearthstone. You've got your mana, you've got your MasterCard. Maybe that's where the similarities end. I've not played Hearthstone, but basically we're forced into this tutorial battle for this game's minigame, which is a card game. And we're basically just trying to lose as fast as we can by continually attacking and not playing anything. A really, really, really rare scenario, but the best case scenario is you win on turn 3 of the enemy turn, which is not going to happen here. Average is you... wow. He did all the stuff that he could have won with at the end of his turn. Average is what we're seeing here, where you lose on the 4th enemy turn. So here we're going to be selling a bunch of our resources for some money. We're going to be buying some accessories that give us speed. Speed is one of the most important stats, because despite being completely placebo, when it comes to starting turn order, it actually does help starting turn order, and it also determines how fast we can get off our magic spells later, because this run is going to transition very, very quickly from being a very physical-based run with crafts into being very arts-based with magic. And speed in general just helps you do things a lot faster, but there's a lot of very specific speed breakpoints throughout the course of the run that we need to keep track of to make sure we have the right delay on our spells to be able to rapid fire them off as fast as possible.
Pillars eliminated. You may now continue.
So here we have to swap to Altina again because she has the swing that can break these pillars for us. You can use Milliam, the blue-hair girl who just joined us, to do this as well, but her swing is actually a punch rather than a sweeping swing. So, it's way better for killing these pillars, which we want to do because those green orbs you see flying into us is giving us those craft points I mentioned. And it really helps us have those maxed out for this next section where we need our crafts. So I'm way ahead on BP here, which is that gauge in the top right. BP is needed for using Brave Orders. And with no BP, we're a sad person. So we need to make sure we're getting BP from these fights. You get BP by attacking an enemy and unbalancing them. That causes a follow-up. Basically, enemies have certain weaknesses to certain types of attacks. And by hitting that weakness, you unbalance, you get a follow-up attack, which is some more damage, and you get that brave point. Ultimately, we're not too concerned with actually unbalancing our opponents, because when an enemy is broken, any attack you do to them will also cause a follow-up and get you that brave point. So this fight in particular, these slimes here are more weak to magic than physical, so we're going to use our magical attacks from our crafts, because crafts do have different properties. Some of them are magical damage that scale off our magic attacks, some are physical that scale off our physical attack. So by using our magical crafts on the things that have weaker magical resistance, there we're able to make quick work of that fight, where it would take a lot longer if we were trying to use our physical crafts.
Nothing.
Here we're going to synthesize an action quartz, which is going to give us a little more speed, and we're also going to synthesize a saintly force, which is the best buff spell in the game. It gives 4 turns of both attack and speed large, or attack and magic attack rather, and that's a 45% increase to our stats. Buffs are insanely huge in this run for letting us do all the damage that we need to do. You do very little damage in these games without any buffs. So here we have Rontis. This guy can be a jerk sometimes. Hopefully he's not. We're going to have Reen cast that Saintly Force on both of our other attackers, because Reen's kind of pitiful compared to Millium here, so we don't really need his damage too much. Ooh, that's a really good break really early. We're going to rush.
I shall go. Here. Now.
Alright, that was one of the best Rontis fights I've ever seen, so that's very nice. That fight can go so many different ways, so it's very nice that it went as well as it did. Coming up here, we have the first mech fight of the run. Mech fights are basically giant games of rock, paper, scissors. Enemy mechs have a stance they go into for each one of their attacks. They have 3 different targeting points. Basically just pick the right point and you get an unbalance. For the most part anyways, there's a number of fights out there where even if you hit the correct part, you don't always get an unbalance. And it's really annoying. And we call those 3-star memes in the community, because the unbalance rate is 3 stars instead of 4. So once I broke the enemy here, I was basically able to just spam a bunch of attacks and do a bunch of damage on him. Unfortunately, damage roll said, no, you don't kill him here, so we had to do an extra attack. Here we get ambushed by one of our students in a mech fight, so he got the first 3 turns on us. So that right there was a 3-star meme. I attacked the correct part, but I didn't unbalance. Ultimately, it just means we have to do another attack or 2 here. As speedrunners, we have a lot of knowledge on where to attack on the mech fights. We have notes, we have pictures in our notes, we have plenty of ways to know where to attack the right thing. So a lot of mech fights are just basically scripts you can follow. And if you break script because of a 3-star meme, then you just have to adjust accordingly. Or the script bakes it into it and expects you to fail a few of them. So now we're getting into the other part of this game, which is the more meatier portion. This game is broken up between, like, your school activities that we were just taking care of, and then going on a field study, which is basically just a field trip to a different area around the country. We're going to take a shower because we're dirty boys. And the field studies comprise the majority of the game. Taking a shower there restores all of our HP, EP, and craft points. But only to 100 craft points, so we have to take 2 showers if we want to get all the way to 200, which pretty much every single time we shower, we do want to get to 200. So we take 2 showers because we're dirty boys.
Yeah. If not for the monsters, it'd make a perfect place for a picnic.
I can see that. Right there is the south gate to St. Arc.
Here we're going to pick up a Sepith chest. That's,
50 hours.
again, the items we need for each element to be able to synthesize quartz. Like you need X amount of wind sepith to synthesize a wind quartz, or time sepith to synthesize a time quartz. And managing that resource throughout the run is a huge part, because those resources are not only used to make quartz, but they are also used to open slots, which are basically exactly what they sound like. They're slots where we put in the quartz. So you need both of them, and upgrading opening slots is quite expensive. So we're gonna swap to Yuna again here while we're running around town, collecting our quests for the day. Because when we get back out onto the highway, we're going to be wanting to out of bounds almost immediately. So having her as the character to out of bounds is she's the easiest one to out of bounds with normal field attacks. So she's generally the one you want to out of bounds with, because she's the easiest to do it with. Sometimes they'll make the out of bounds look easy, sometimes I'll make them look like a real struggle. I definitely do assure you they are way harder than they look.
I can smell flowers
When we first discovered out of bounds, we saw somebody do it in like a casual playthrough, and they posted a video of it, and we're like,
Must be coming from the field.
we can't replicate this. This is too hard to do. How do we do it? And it took us a long time to actually figure out how to do out of bounds, at least somewhat consistently. So in this game, you can fast travel around towns as long as you've been to that place. So if you see me enter somewhere and then immediately leave, what I'm doing is I'm picking up that fast travel point for later, because we'll have business there later, but we don't necessarily have business there now. We're also going to go around these shops and pick up some equipment that will help us, some weapons to increase our damage, and also accessories that we will want. We're going to take some time to equip all those accessories. Swap around our quartz a little bit here. And then you can mess with your tactics in this game, which is basically your starting position. We're going to be using a lot of very specific formations throughout the game in order to minimize enemy attacks. Because since we can't just ass-craft things as soon as the fight starts and end the fight, we actually have to, you know, play the fights for the most part for a little while. So we need formations that we can avoid taking damage in. A popular one we use is this Four Corners one. This basically means none of the enemies can use AoE attacks and hit multiple characters, which drastically reduces the amount of damage you take.
Very well.
You know what? Let's do this.
Let's go. Let's go.
Early turn's a little scary here. We're going to use Yuna to buff up Reen, because Reen's basically our strongest damage at this point.
It's my turn.
Gale just does bonkers amounts of damage compared to anybody else in our team right now. So we want to make sure we're doing those follow-up attacks while linked to Reen, so that we get all of his extra damage from that strength up.
It's my turn. It's down. Let's go.
Alright, all things considered, that was a decent fight with those enemies. I've seen better, but that was definitely an acceptable fight. Reen's CP is a little low, but I do have a backup I can do to get some extra. So there's also some destroyable objects in this game, rocks and pots and junk. When you break those, you get assault gauge orbs and CP orbs. The CP orbs restore your CP, and the assault gauge restore your assault gauge. The assault gauge is basically a way you have to enter a fight always with like max preemptiveness, where you've like the break gauge for the enemy automatically decreases by 50%. You get 10 CP. You have first turns. you just have so many bonuses, and we're going to be using that later, specifically to grind breakpoints in specific fights, because we don't always we're not always able to restore our breakpoints on demand. They're a pretty limited resource in that regards, where you can really only restore them through battle or an in-rest. And in-rests are pretty slow, and you don't always have access to one. So in a lot of cases, we're just going to take an encounter, assault attack it, and then get all of our BP back from link attacks.
Powerful.
Here we're going to dodge the spider. One of the nicest things about this game is that when you open a chest like that, enemies that are chasing you de-aggro entirely. So he just lost track of us. We went behind the chest, and we were really able to out of bounds through this entire area very quickly. This is one of the rudest fights in the run. We got really good starting RNG here. In the sense that these guys did not get any turn bonuses. They can get a turn bonus called Death Blow. And if Death Blow hits you, it does exactly what it sounds like it does. It instantly kills you. And so these guys can just open the fight with a Death Blow turn, and then you're just extremely, extremely sad. Instead, we got good RNG, so we're going to put up our defensive Brave Order here that just starts reflecting every damage we take. Then we're going to swap into our damage one once we have Reen's turn again. And we're going to break them all with that Gale attack we have. And then we're just going to lay into them as best we can before they recover from that.
It's my turn.
I'm just getting a little low here, but it should be alright.
Not yet.
Let's go.
Alright.
I must.
So that fight also starts you in an ambush, which is the rudest way a fight can ever start you, because it means all the enemies go first. And not only is that very deadly normally, but as I mentioned, there's that Death Blow status effects that can be a turn bonus in this area, which is a unique effect to specific areas in this game. And there's nothing stopping those spiders from having a Death Blow turn and just instantly wiping you.
I wonder who's performing.
So after that spiders fight, we get the strongest thing in this game for this category. It's a Brave Order called Divine Song. Basically what it means is for the next 6 turns after using it, all of my spells are instant cast. I don't have to wait for them to cast, they just immediately cast. And that breaks the game in so many ways that we are going to demonstrate.
Stop getting so worked up. God, please don't let go.
Yahoo!
Yahoo.
You don't have to force yourself to be as excited as Yuna.
1 Yahoo for the red. So the main strategy here now is, now that we have Divine Song, there's basically only going to be a few fights left in the entire run where we use crafts for our actual damage. Because one of the main ways arts are really good in this game is you get some quirks called bells. Wind Bell, Fire Bell, Water Bell, Earth Bell. And what the bells do is after casting a specific element associated with the bell, your delay after casting is halved. So not only is my cast instant, but the time I have to wait after casting for my next turn is halved. And that means we can get turns very, very quickly if we have high speed, which, like I mentioned earlier, is one of the main focuses of this run, is getting enough speed for those breakpoints to make our cast very, very quick. We'll see later on that Reen's going to be getting 12 to 18 turns in a row for the most part, because he's basically saying time has stopped because I am casting spells so quickly. So now that we've gotten to Parm, we're going to actually warp all the way back and pick up one of those bell courts. We're going to pick up the wind bell. This wind bell is essential to this run. Without this wind bell, this category would not exist. Because you would straight up have no way to win the next fight. Like, the next fight is that cut and dry that if you don't have wind bell, you do not win the fight in this category. Again, setting up a very specific formation here. This formation is going to cause the enemies to normally always target Kurt and only Kurt. He's kind of going to be just our meat shield, while the other three characters support Reen. Here we're going to buy some armor that we're going to have on for the rest of the game. And the reason we have it on for the rest of the game is because it gives speed. Not too many armors or equipment give high values of speed in this game, or any speed at all. So, getting some this early is super useful. There's also a resource in this game called Sepith Mass, which is basically Sepith you get from enemies that don't have an element associated, and the whole reason it exists is for you to sell it. It's supposed to be a casual player's main source of money, but for us it's just kind of another source of money because we need a lot of money and we don't have a lot of ways to get it.
Pleasant around here. I was expecting remnants of some kind.
Later on in the run, we're going to be doing some very, very taboo things for a casual player. That it's very much, you would only ever do this if you were a speedrunner. To our inventories. And regards to what we're selling. Alright, so this is another very difficult fight. Like I said, if you don't have the wind bell, that you just lose this fight all the time. Starting off with a crit there was really bad, but it actually worked out because Kurt dodged the second attack, so we're actually fine here.
It's my turn.
So now we're going to go into Divine Song, and we're just going to start spamming this Nemesis arrow, which is our best damage. These guys are weak to winds, and as you can kind of see, it's chunking through their health very quickly.
Let's go.
All right, that was a solid fight. These fights can go a lot of ways. This is by far the most volatile chapter in this game. And that's one of the most volatile fights. There's a lot of patterns there where if you're not used to seeing them and you don't exactly know what to do and you don't exactly have enough brave points to do it with, you'll just end up dying. In terms of how much time S-Craftless loses to any percent, I think it's there hasn't been any modified turbo runs of any percent because
Starting to hurt.
this series doesn't have too many runners, and we kind of all run different categories because our community in general is very laid back, and we just run for fun. We run what categories we want and what we enjoy because there's so many ways to play these games and so many categories to play of them. But you lose a lot of time in this early game, but some of the later game fights are actually faster without S-Crafts.
I shall go.
Thank you. Let's go.
Yeah, that the Alice on Kurt there was the right play because of that crit.
Let's go.
Good read, good read. So now we've got our Saintly Force up. We're going to go into our Divine Songing with Nemesis Arrow. These guys aren't weak to wind, but it still does a considerable amount of damage to use Nemesis Arrow on them. And now that we're out of juice for our Divine Song, we kind of just have to finish off the fight with whatever means we have.
It's my turn.
Which is generally our crafts. I got sealed on Reen there, which means I couldn't use my physical attacks, so I had to fumble a moment there and figure out what I was going to do. Fortunately, I only had one turn of seal left.
I'm tired.
So I was able to move up in range of the enemies, which I was going to need to do anyways, and then I was able to use that Gale to finish off the fight. Here we get access to a thing called Burst. We're never going to use that. It uses our BP, which is way too precious of a resource, to do physical damage that is very bad in this game. So we're not concerned with any of that. None of that, please.
I shall go.
We're gonna actually heal Kurt here because he's probably gonna be hurting pretty bad after. Yeah. Go into Raging Fire. Link Kurt. Gale. That should break. Alright, that was a slightly slow fight, but a very good fight. Overall, any fight we survive is a good fight. That fight could have been faster, but for what it was a good fight. This is basically a refight of all the 3 metallic enemies we've just killed. So we are basically just going to repeat the strategies we've been using on them and hope they work, more or less. Because just like the first version of these fights are incredibly dangerous still. Uh-oh. Okay, we didn't die. Good. That's good.
Danger level high.
There we go.
I'm sorry.
So as you can see, sometimes there's just not a whole lot you can do. Taking a single death here is alright.
Very well. I'm up.
I shall go. Charge. Thank you. It's my turn.
Thank you.
It helps to illustrate that I'm not kidding when I say these fights are tough. 0 arc, so I can delay my Divine Song an extra turn is very nice. Kurt going down is not great, but is... Out of all the people who could go down here, that's probably the most okay. It is unfortunate, though.
All right.
I need to re-up Saintly. Alright. It's going to make this next fight a little more awkward because he doesn't have any CP, but hopefully it doesn't matter. We just get good RNG. Or he can get crit and get all of the CP back. That technically works. That technically works. It's not the most ideal way, but it works. It works. Oh, 0 arts for Reen. That's huge. That's a really good turn bonus for us. 0 arts means you cast your spell instantly if you were starting your cast on that turn. And,
My turn. It's my turn.
and it also costs 0 magic to do, which is very good for us. Need to reset Lyrene here. Gale should finish. Alright. So now that we were through that very difficult boss rush,
This is truly here. Keep it up.
we get a bit of a break for a few fights here. This game is also broken into a third part. Like, there's a field study part 1 and part 2. This is the second part where you regain a lot of characters from the previous 2 games, Cold Steel 1 and 2. And you get to use them, your old buddies, your old pal, the old crew, to go around the area you went around the first time to some newer areas. And you're able to just use a new set of characters. It's kind of how this game gets around giving you a cast of like 40 characters to use, and actually makes you want to use them all. Because I got back Laura, the blue-haired girl, Fee, the white-haired girl, and Elliot, the orange-haired boy. These guys, I'm not going to get these guys until the end of the game after this.
Yesterday.
Aw, you worried about them, Ring?
They're good kids. I look forward
We also unlocked a very important ability after that set of boss fights. An ability, for example, that would actually have made those boss fights a lot easier. And that's the ability to equip a second Master Quartz. Master Quartz are basically super powered quartz that give you a ton of stats and very, very unique effects, such as like more break damage, more damage when an enemy is broken, more damage when you evade and counter something, increased healing potency. They just have a ton of different effects, and those were added in Azure. But for the first time in this game, you're actually able to equip 2 of them at once. And that is... I don't know who okayed that idea, because it's quite possibly the most broken thing they've ever done to this series. But it sure is fun. Unfortunately for us, our Master Quartz options right now aren't the greatest, but they will be eventually, and that's when the dual equip system is really going to bust things open. For example, we'll put on a quartz that says, hey, do double magic damage, but your spells cost twice as much. But we can offset that by secondary equipping a Master Quartz that says, when you deal arts damage, recover your magic power. So it completely evens out the entire thing there. So, like, you're just getting double magic power for no cost. One of the things, though, is when you do secondary equip a Master Quartz, you only get the major effect. Like, Master Quartz have 3 very unique effects to them. Like more damage, recover HP when you do craft damage, and increased critical rate or something. You only get the first and most prioritized bonus when you sub-equip a Master Quartz. I forgot to shower. Going into this next section with no CP would be a death sentence, so I forgot to wash up. I forgot my bathing schedule, so we're just gonna come back to camp real quick and take some showers. Alright. That didn't happen, nobody saw it.
Let's go.
So throughout this game, we get various vehicles, and by various, I mean 2. You get horses and you get bikes. In this chapter, we get horses for free, which is really nice. Normally, you have to talk to somebody specific to unlock them. But from here on out in the game, we basically get bikes for everything. And bikes are cool, but the biggest problem with bikes is they cannot turn. And you'll see an example of that as soon as we get bikes. They're very, very bad at turning. Arena Scope of Silver. So we're going to set up Reen for speed here, because he's going to have a job of casting La Forte on the boss fight. The next boss fight is the hardest boss fight in the run. It's the most inconsistent fight, it's the hardest fight. There's basically at any point in the fight, the enemies can just decide to be a jerk and make you lose the fight. We get through it mostly consistently, but there's always those patterns where you just you can't answer what they do because they just do too much. Leading up to that, though, we have a few more trash fights that we're just going to be handling with some very basic crafts. We're going to be using Raging Fire a lot in these fights to keep our CP up, because in addition to the 20% damage buff that it gives, it also gives 10 CP, and we kind of want all of our craft points for the boss. So we're going to be breaking rocks and using that throughout the climb here to just help manage our CP levels a little bit. And that's why we swapped the Fee here, is because she has a ranged attack with her weapons, so she can break the rocks from a distance while nobody else can. And in true speedrunner fashion, we do want to minimize movement. So by using her ranged attacks, we can hit them from pretty far ways away, rather than having to run all the way up to them. These trash fights have been very good for CP management so far. We haven't had anything go too terrible, and we've gotten a good amount of unbalances as well. We've got one more of those to go. Turnover here is a little sketchy, but think we'll be okay. Yeah, these guys are gonna get healed up. That's annoying.
It's my turn.
Alright, we're just gonna auto this guy. Oh, wait, hold up. Alright, that definitely got a little spicy there at the end because of the auto. I wasn't able to really keep track of what was going on. But at the same time, I was still doing damage, and he went down pretty fast because of the auto. It probably was the same speed if I had not autoed and actually played it. Auto is a mode you can engage in the game where all of your characters just do basic attacks, and the game moves really, 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 really fast combined with turbo. Like, fast enough that you definitely cannot see what's going on. Most of the time, we're only going to be using that for BP farming. But there's a few rare cases in battles like that one where it's like, if you just need to finish off the fight, a lot of the times it's better to just enable auto and finish it off with auto attacks rather than, like, actually play it out. Doing it with auto there also saved me the temptation of trying to use a craft to end it quickly, which would have hurt my CP levels a little bit. Our CP is looking absolutely fine, though, so we should be okay here. We just need the pattern to work out for us, which is to be determined. So we're gonna do a corner formation here with Fee in the top other corner. That's gonna hopefully bait the enemies to attack Fee, who's a little more dodgy than the rest of the group. She also has status resistance as her Master Quartz. So the hope is the dude that can inflict any status in the game on you is just going to attack her with, instead of attacking the rest of our party and giving us a bunch of really nasty status that make us lose the fight. Alright, good start. Good start. We didn't see Murder Strafe, and we didn't see any status. We've got a good chance here. Very good dodge from Fee there. Amazing. Alright. Bad miss, bad miss. So the main contender here is the red-haired girl, Shirley. She can one-shot our entire team once she goes below half. And as it might sound, you really don't want that to happen. Okay, we're still alright here. Fee's really hurt, but the fight's almost over, so I think we're okay.
Let's go.
Yeah, Aggie gets his turn here. We're alright, we're alright, we're alright. This is the first try. We can't lose from here. I'd be shocked if we could. Alright, it's over. Very good fight. Extremely good fight. Now here we have an amazing song and also our first really hard mech fight. We're just going to play rock, paper, scissors with him for a little while we take a bunch of damage.
It's my turn. Let's go.
Alright, good. We got the second Crescent Flash unbalance there. That's a 75% chance or 80% chance. And if you miss it, it's really bad. Because that means you generally go into the second phase without a BP carryover. And that can make this second phase very difficult.
Very well.
So here Kurt shows up. He's going to help us out. And now it's the 2v1. So the idea here is we're going to use Laura to buff up our strength on Reen, and then we're going to use what's called a Unite attack. And that does bonkers amounts of mech damage and break gauge damage. We're going to break the boss and then swap into Rain Slash with Kurt here. And Rain Slash delays the boss, so we just continually able to pound on him. And then Yuna gives him Accelerate, which is even more turns. Because it allows you to instantly take your turn. And we can do that to just spam up our BP as fast as we can and get another Unite attack off to finish the fight. Extremely good fight there. That fight does have some RNG with it because you need to hit a few 80%. But that was extremely excellent.
I see more training is needed.
So here we're heading into chapter 2. And just like chapter 1, we're going to start again back at the school. Because, I mean, one of the major things is Reen is a school teacher in this game. We kind of don't mess with that much in the speedrun, but we are going to scam the heck out of one of our students later, and we're not going to feel bad about it because he's filthy rich and we're not. So just donate alms to the poor. We need his money to fund our food addiction that we have. Because that is a staple of trail speedrunning, is every single trail speedrun, except for one, has some sort of massive food addiction. In Sky First Chapter, you have an ice cream and jelly bean addiction. In Sky Second Chapter, we used to have a meatball addiction, but we no longer. And then Sky Third, we also don't have any food addiction, unfortunately. Zero, we have an addiction to burgers and coffee. And Azure, we have an addiction to popcorn. Cold Steel 1, we're addicted to warm egg soup. Cold Steel 3, Cold Steel 1, warm egg soup. Cold Steel 2 is tough onigiri. And Cold Steel 3, we're addicted to hot pot and seafood platter, I think it is. And then CS4, we are addicted to northern borscht. Mostly the reason we have food addiction is it's all the same reason except for Azure. And that's that food gives CP on demand. So we're able to restore our CP in the middle of a boss gauntlet, for example. And that is an invaluable ability. Because unlike this run in particular, every other Trails run, for the most part, is just spam S-Crafts. And S-Crafts use all of your CP and deal bonus damage if you have 200 CP. So you really want to have capped out CP as much as you can. So here we're going to equip up our students so we can get through this next section.
All right. Beginning search.
And since this is a dungeon, we can just go through the walls.
My turn.
It's my turn.
Let's go.
All right.
So the way the spacing works out is that if you get caught between these first wall there and the second outer wall, Reen has the perfect out of bounds to get through that. So it's better to switch to him and then keep trying with Yuna to get out. Alright, we're just gonna do the same here.
It's my turn.
Let's go.
It's my turn.
Because both Reen and Yuna can get out of bounds. And Yuna is generally easier, but sometimes she just does not have the right spacing. So it's better to use Reen. Kurt can also get out of bounds, but I've personally never done it with him because from the people who worked on this game a little more for the characters who can go out of bounds, rather, Kurt was the hardest character to go out of bounds with, and there's never really a point to going out of bounds with him, because anytime you have Kurt, you also have Yuna and Ryu. Yeah, I'd like some breakpoints, please. Good counter, good counter.
My turn.
I really need to end this fight with, Alright, there we go. I need to end this fight with 5 BP for the next fight.
Very well.
If I don't, it's a very, very, very bad time. Because, while the next fight is not the hardest fight in the run, it was the hardest fight to route. Because it's a very punishing fight. It's the first and only fight in the run where we're actually just gonna straight up turtle it. We're gonna use up a defensive Brave Order. We're gonna just let the boss hit us and heal all the damage and just pack ourselves in and prepare for a long one, because there is no way to get a consistent quick kill on this guy.
Seems like a good spot for a...
Here we're gonna make a bunch of quartz that we'll need later. Open up some slots. For 2. Action 2. We're gonna trade for... Alright, good. We have enough U materials. Got Wind Bell, Tuna, Sync Force. Alright. Formation. And when I said turtle up, I mean it. We're literally going to densely pack ourselves in a tight square here so that Kurt's Breath can, which is an AoE healing spell, can hit everybody consistently. As you can see, the boss just did, 60% of her health in a single attack. That's why you can't do this fight quickly. You do not survive.
It's my turn.
Alright, there go the ads.
It's my turn.
So now we're going to swap into Iron Will, which means we take half damage, and we're still almost dead.
This is nothing. Let's go.
Alright, Kurt's going to get a breath off, we'll be fine. And now we're just going to continue on like this until the boss gets broken. Then we'll swap back into Divine Song from there and focus on dishing out the remainder of his health.
It's my turn. I'm up.
Now.
Let's go. It's my turn.
As you can see, Range is getting an extraordinary number of turns here, thanks to that Bell Quartz. And we're through. I actually did a miss attack with Kurt there. I was supposed to heal, and I actually ended up attacking, but fortunately for us, it didn't really matter. Because it definitely could have. Also, that's 60% with everybody having a huge HP heal. Or rather, a huge HP bonus from our accessories. Like, we're getting 25% more HP from our accessories, and it still did 60% of our health. This right here is one of the most RNG mech fights in the entire run. Because basically all you have to attack into here are 3 stars for a little while. And you need to really try to get 5...
My turn.
try to get your 5 break points, and then also hit the Unite attack, which we missed. So that's not good. So from here, I pretty much just have to freestyle this.
Let's go. I got this.
My turn.
Alright, you're down. You're down. Down. All right. So that didn't go ideally because we just did not. We got 3-star maims. We did not get the unbalances we needed, despite attacking the right points, because the middle mech there, Cedric mech, doesn't have a guaranteed unbalance, and neither do the two on the sides until they're casting a craft, and they don't do that until pretty late into the fight. So you just have to get lucky with hitting 75%. Fortunately, that fight's always kind of a crapshoot, so like, even when it goes right, it's still not that much faster than what we did there. Because the damage rolls are so extreme as well. Like, there's so much to that fight that's not consistent that it's just like, playing it by ear is generally just the best thing you can do anyways.
Have a look-see.
Here, we're going to sell some stuff for some more money and buy some weapons. And we're going to do a very important thing called refining our weapons. This takes U materials, which is another resource in this game that you can use to trade for particularly bell quartz, which we've done a few times already, and then also refine your weapons. We really want to keep Reen's weapon refined for this chapter because what that does is it adds a 10% crit rate to his weapon, and I mean, that sounds good, right? Like, yeah, just crit 10% of the time. You don't need a critical turn. You can just crit 10% of the time. That also applies to his arts, his magic. And we're about to hit the part of the run. You saw it a little on the Boston the Ironhell Keep a little while ago, where Reen was just getting so many turns, turn after turn after turn, because of that Divine Song and those bells. That's the name of the game from here on out. Only we're going to magnify it. And 10% crit rate on all of those spells just means you're going to crit pretty often. And sometimes without those crits, you don't have enough damage. It sounds inconsistent because it's like, what if you never crit? It's like, there's backups to it and the fight just goes longer. But like, you can get a bunch of crits and they save you a bunch of time. So here we see a runner guy here. He's running with us. That guy right there, in every single, in Cold Steel 3, Cold Steel 4, and Trails into Reverie, that guy is running this exact same path. And he actually moves faster than you do. His NPC coding is to slow down when you get near him so you can talk to him. You don't ever need to talk to him, but he straight up has faster movement speed than we do. And boy, I wish we could steal that movement speed. So here we have to go around the city of Crossbell here, which is the setting for the middle arc of this series right now. The Crossbell titles, Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure. Those are amazing games, highly recommend. It's my favorite part of this series. And definitely like the most refined and balanced the battle system has been, at least for Azure in my opinion. And I speedrun those games as well. Those speedruns are amazing. But you kind of get a callback here. You finally get to explore the city in 3D, because those games are 2.5D. So for a lot of fans of the series, this part of the game where you're in Crossbell, it's like, oh my god, we're finally back. We're finally back. I know all of this. This is so fantastic. All these characters that I've already gotten to know and bonded with, I get to interact with them again, and it's a really fun time. But speedrunning wise, we're just like objective here, objective there. Let's go. So we don't get to enjoy too much of it. Back there, we bought 5 sets of noodles. We'll need those later in Chapter 3. Those are the CP food items, one of them that I talked about. Those noodles restore, I think, 30 CP when you use them. And you can use them outside of a battle in the menu. So, like, we can use all of our CP on a fight, and then just use some noodles to get it all back. Here we're gonna go through the Geofront, which is the most iconic dungeon of the Crossbell series as well. Unfortunately for the Geofront, we're gonna make a complete mockery of it by going out of bounds. So instead of interacting with all the mechanics the game wants to try to force on us, like crawling through vents and ladders, we're just gonna go through walls instead. That's a thing in this game that we're actually never going to see, is you're supposed to go through a lot of sections by like crawling through a vent to another area. Since we can go through walls whenever we want, we're never going to go through a vent, because crawling through a vent is extremely slow. So here we have another fight. We're going to handle it basically the same way as the one we just did. Beans, Amber, and a crack from Reen just finish off the fight that easily. It's really nice when you get Reen and then Tio for these turn orders like that, because you're able to just win the fight without trying to waste time with Kurt or Yuna and doing damage with them that ultimately may not matter. You still want to do damage with them because you want to try to get the break points, and you want to like make sure if you don't miss, or if the enemies move and Tio can't hit them all, or something or other, you still want to have that damage dealt rather than just like passing their turn. So here we just skipped the entirety of this entire room. Like this is the end of the room. We just skipped the entirety of it. There is a cutscene trigger that spawns another fight that we do have to hit, and there's also some more goodies we want to pick up in this room. So we're gonna out of bounds backwards through the room. Because this is still way more optimal than actually going through it normally. So here we're going to set up another formation. This is the unit triangle. This is kind of a remnant of an older strategy where we made Yuna a dodge tank, because she can counter without being in melee range. But it works very well for this fight because she draws all the aggro of these enemies. And from there, you're able to just freeze them with PO. And basically bully them because they can't move for 4 turns in a row. And they just take a bunch of damage because they're frozen.
Let's go. Very well.
And we do want to make sure our BP is at 5 because we're going to the boss next. So we have this mob here. This guy is an absolute jerkface because, well, normally you open that chest. Kurt's dead. That's not a problem. Normally you open that chest and then sometimes he sees you or he doesn't. Kurt dying there is not an issue because we don't use Kurt on the next fight, or pretty much at all anymore ever, so I don't really care that he died. I can just heal him anyways. But we're just gonna head to the end of the dungeon here. And now we're gonna sped up very specifically for this next fight with the Water Bell and that Aqua Bleed spell that we made. We're gonna give Tio Cannon to specifically reduce her speed. We do not want her being fast in this fight. We want her getting a turn in the turn order as late as possible, even. Here you go, Kurt, have a Lightning Bomb. Wind, Forest. And to that end, we're going to give her an accessory we bought earlier called the Heavy Helm, which reduces her speed even further. Because we want to hopefully time her turn right when our first Divine Song runs out, so that she can use a craft and then never get her turn again. Because this is where Reen starts going supersonic. We get bad RNG here because this guy is casting on his first turn. You don't want to see that, but the backup is just kind of move out of the way. Nice dodge.
All right. It's my turn. I'm up. I'm up.
Reen.
I can keep. It's my turn. It's my turn. Let's go.
Alright, so unfortunately Turner didn't work out for us here.
It's my turn. It's my turn.
But we're just gonna continue to spam Aqua Blade on this boss.
Let's go.
Here I go.
It's my turn. It's my turn.
Not getting any art support here. This is maybe going to be a loss. Yeah, this is a loss. I lost a little too much damage from how this fight started,
Sorry, depleted. How sorry.
which is unfortunate.
Thanks. Thanks. Thanks.
Heal, stop.
Sorry, everyone.
So that's super unfortunate.
Leave it to me.
The reason that happened is because I had to choose early on between healing Green's health and healing his damage. And healing his health was the wrong play.
It's my turn.
All right.
I'm up.
Let's go. Wait,
Tio, why are you fast?
My turn. I'm up.
my turn.
Uh-oh.
I shall go. It's my turn. Wide open.
That time was me messing up.
It's my turn.
Yeah, this is going to be another loss because he's going enhanced here.
Wait.
Unfortunate.
Depleted.
That one was me. That was me. I lost Divine Song and I didn't re-up it, which meant Reen had a cast time, and that meant I was
Leave it to me.
gonna have problems because you cannot hard cast a spell in this run. Once you get Divine Song, you just do not have the time for it.
Let's go. It's my turn.
Here I go.
I'm up.
Oh, I also don't have Mobius on him. That's also the problem.
It's my turn.
Let's go.
It's my turn. It's my turn.
That's part of why my damage is so low. Yeah. I actually just need to reset for that.
Sorry, depleted.
So one of the things I forgot to do there was put on a Master Quartz onto Reen. That's level 3, the Mobius one we just picked up.
Leave it to me.
And what that means is I have way less damage than I'm supposed to, which is why this fight is not working out. There you go, have Mobius, friend. That's all of your damage. And then everything else is good.
Beyond here is the computer room.
So yeah, that's what was also going wrong, is I did not have Mobius on. Mobius is a level 3 Master Quartz, and it's an arts-based Master Quartz, which means it gives me so much more magic damage than what I was using before.
It's my turn.
This is just bad turn order, though.
Let's go.
We should be alright.
Shall go. My turn.
I'm up.
Nope, just barely not enough.
Now.
That one was turn order.
News.
There was nothing wrong with this fight except for just really bad turn order.
I'm sorry.
Leave it to me.
This fight is normally not that much of a problem, but sometimes you just don't get a turn order that works with you. Alright, this should be good.
Let's go.
For real this time, I promise.
My turn.
I'm up.
Let's go.
It's my turn. I'm up.
There we go.
I'm up. I'm up. It's my turn. I'm up.
Here I go. All right.
Let's go.
How do I still not have enough damage? Dude, where's my art support?
I shall go.
It's my turn.
Alright. As you can see, some of these fights are extremely tight. And if you don't have the exact perfect setup and things go your way with those bonus crits and bonus art support from your characters, you can have a very bad time. Here we're going to do a very specific formation with Sharon, the maid we just got, right behind Yuna. But also slightly ajar. Slightly ajar of Yuna. Because this is going to confuse the game. We're taking a big advantage of the game right here. And this is going to confuse the game such that the boss is going to attack Yuna and Sharon at the same time, but since they're not directly behind one another, they're slightly offset. The game's gonna like try to knock Yuna back first, and it's gonna knock Yuna into Sharon. It's gonna knock Yuna into Sharon. And from there, Sharon's gonna get hit and knocked back. But the most important part is Yuna doesn't get knocked back. Because the boss is so fat that if Yuna's standing where she is right now, the boss cannot fit around Yuna to go and attack Reen. And if the boss attacks Reen in any way, the fight is over. Because you don't have the break damage and the arts damage that you need anymore, because we have a course that says when the higher your HP, the more break damage you do. If we lose the max effect of that by any means, we cannot win this next fight. So by having Yuna be a body blocker in such a way where she doesn't get knocked back, the boss is forced to attack Yuna a second time. So you can see there, she didn't get knocked back. Shadow Stitch opening is nice.
My turn.
I'm up.
I need to do something.
Let's go. Let's go. I'm up.
Free Divine Song, we take it, we take it.
I'm up. It's my turn. I'm up. Let's go. It's my turn.
It's Reen's turn, by the way, guys. In case anyone was wondering, it's Reen's turn.
Now.
It's my turn. It's my turn.
Not yet. I can't.
It's my turn. Let's go. I'm up. I'm up. It's my turn. It's my turn.
Dang, he wouldn't powered. I have the means to handle this, so it's fine, because we got so lucky throughout the rest of the fight. But we were so close to getting a really quick kill on this guy.
I'm up.
I need to do something.
Yo, the Yuna kill though? Let's go, Yuna. So that was almost like an extraordinarily good fight, but unfortunately, right at the end there, we had a little bit of an issue. But thankfully, because we got so lucky throughout the entire duration of the fight, that wasn't an issue for us. Because it definitely could have been. That fight could have been a loss if things didn't go as well as that. Because I missed my damage rolls there, is basically what happens. I also used too much CP on the Brave Point grind because of bad turn order. So Sharon wasn't able to do a second Shadow Strings there. And that's actually really set behind my damage. When I saw that, I was kind of very scared. And that's why we didn't get the quick kill. Is because I had to use Shadow Strings a second time on the monkeys to get a break. There's a lot of things like that in this run where one thing can chain into the next very easily, and it's really hard to pinpoint why exactly did this fight go wrong. Fortunately, there's not too many more fights where anything can even go wrong, so that's always good, right? Like, we're about halfway through Chapter 2 at this point, and
I shall go exiting the battlefield.
and once we're out of this chapter, the game's just over. So here you can see the bike cannot turn. This thing has such a huge turn radius that, like, a lot of the times you are better off getting off the bike, physically turning your character around, and then getting back on the bike, rather than trying to turn the bike around. And you're going to see an example of that right here, because we have to go into this corner to get this chest. We're just going to get off the bike, turn around, and get back on it, because that is seconds faster than trying to, like, back the bike up out of that corner, do the turn, and then continue on our way without hitting that dinosaur. You can just get off, turn around, and get back on. Because I don't know about you, but I also have a cell phone in my pocket that lets me cast magic and summon horses and bikes from the great beyond. It's a pretty cool tool. Alright, so this is the second to last really dangerous fight where we rely on Hypersonic Reen to get a billion turns. This one is the one that takes it to the most extreme, though, because Reen activates his 8th grader syndrome powers and his chosen one powers in this fight and gets a permanent buff to his speed. So if you thought he was going fast before, he's going even faster in this fight.
Look at that! I shall go.
Oh, I forgot to do my formation, though. That's not ideal.
I shall go.
Noodles Rain.
I can keep going. Let's go. I'm up.
All right. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Let's go. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah. It's my turn. Yeah. It's my turn.
I shall go.
Thanks. Let's go. Yeah. It's my turn. Let's
Yeah,
go.
we still broken time here.
It's my turn.
We're just gonna use more noodles on. Oh, I can't reach him. Okay. In that case, this.
Very well. Let's go.
Thank
Thanks.
you. I shall go.
It's my turn. Yeah. Let's go. Yeah. It's my turn. Yeah. I'm up. Yeah. I'm up.
Oh, that's bad.
Let's go.
I think we're dead. Maybe?
I shall go.
Maybe not?
Now.
Reen, I need you to go Sonic here, boy. Bro. Oh, he's not going Sonic enough. Oh! I don't know what happened, but we're in there! Get him! So yeah, Reen unlocks a power that we'll be using a lot later on. Like, every single fight in the game, we're going to be using it later on. Where he activates Spirit Unification, and he goes complete and total edgelord. His hair turns white, and you get access to some very, very powerful crafts. Basically, it gives you 3 turns of strength up, defense up, and speed up. The most important thing is it's giving you that a huge strength up buff, combined with a really, really strong craft called Arcane Gale, which double hits and does an insane amount of break damage. So basically what fights are eventually going to look like is Reen uses Spirification, which breaks the enemy. Just immediately, straight up, completely breaks the enemy. And then you have your caster, who's getting, later on we'll get infinite turns with our casters, because we're just going that fast. And they have a quartz that says, do more damage when an enemy is broken. So we instantly break an enemy, and then we swap into infinite turns and abuse the fact that we do more damage when an enemy is broken. And we start 2-shotting and 3-shotting some of the hardest boss fights in the game then. So this fight, the main goal is to get 2 BP and then finish the fight.
It's my turn. Okay. Let's get.
Here we have 2 temporary guest characters that are going to join us in Chapter 3, Ash and Muse. We don't really care about them right now. But Ash is the character who can go the out of bounds very easy with. You can use his assault attack rather than his normal attack to go through walls. And that is a lot faster and a lot easier than using normal attacks.
It's my turn.
My turn.
36th.
And we're going to use that here, not because it's fast, but because it's safe. There's 2 encounters on that floor of stairs that are a chain encounter. So if you encounter one, you encounter both of them. You cannot run away from them, and they are extremely slow to kill. Like, you lose easily 90 seconds to 2 minutes if you have to try to kill those encounters. So by going out of bounds with Ash there and going around them instead of through them, and by going through the wall, you can completely avoid the encounter. So here, this is a forced loss fight, so we're just going to auto to death here. That was a decently fast death. And then the game's just going to let us continue. On this fight, we have to do a certain amount of this boss's health before the game will let us continue. That's a good dodge because that could have instant-killed Reen. And I kind of needed him to not die so that I could saintly force Sharon here, who's the caster for this battle. So now that we reach the health threshold, the boss just instantly murders us, and we're on our way. So here, I think we're going to stop and take our first break for the night. This is a good stopping point as it's the transition between the first half of this chapter and the second half. So if you'd like to cut the break, Richard.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Games Done Quick Hotfix. Today we are showcasing Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 3. We are in the middle of a run. I will hand it right back over and let you take it away whenever you're ready.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We're about to head into this second part of the field study for Chapter 2. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's go. That was... Thanks, Michael. Good voice line for that. So here we're going to get our returning party members from the first 2 games. We're going to get Elisa, the blonde girl. We're going to get Machias, who nobody really remembers. The green-haired guy. And maybe his name's Kevin? I don't know. And we're going to get one of the best casters in the series, the purple-haired girl with the hat named Emma. And despite being one of the best casters, we're actually not going to swap to using her right away. We will later, but she's, for plot reasons, forced out of the next fight. So we can't actually use her. Because otherwise we would, because she would do so much more damage than Reed would as a caster. Also, maybe that green-haired guy's name is, like, Dudley or something? It's either Dudley or Kevin. Maybe it's Machias. So, just like before, we have a few trash fights here with some trash mobs. And we're going to use these fights to get our brave points back so that we have full for the boss. I'm not going to try to use that Zero Arts. I don't know what spells Emma has and how much they do. I'm not going to try to do something fancy with that. We're just going to use crafts. So this dungeon is another section of the Geofront. There's like 1.5 billion of these. They're instead of numbered, they're done by alphabet, and you know the alphabet goes from A to Z. So they could make a lot of these if they wanted to. This one used to be a lot longer before we figured out Green could go through walls. So instead of like running through it normally, we're just gonna go straight through the walls in this section.
This place is way too complicated.
That's likely why it was used as an escape route. Let's hope
Reen.
Be careful.
There we go. Reen is, out of the four characters we use to go through the walls, Reen is the hardest character to go through walls with. But that doesn't stop him. That does not stop him. Unless it stops him. Alright, there we go. Weird, I didn't get back to ADCP off that last fight.
It's my turn.
I guess it was a really fast fight and I didn't get too many unbalances, so that makes sense. Normally you want to try to Gale on this fight because if I were to use Crescent Flash on this fight, Reen would be in range of all these dogs and he would absolutely get creamed because he's so weak compared to everyone else.
My turn. Now.
So the qualifications for going through walls is basically either you have a connection to getting over the barrier, which is how Yuna does it, and that's a crossbow reference, or you're a complete and total edgelord, which is why Eustace, Ash, and Reen can do it. So there we're going to trigger that we triggered some dialogue in the shield front from the out of bounds, and what that caused is it gave us the warp point to the depths of the dungeon. Real nice and easy for us. So we were able to just immediately warp out, get all of our CP back from taking showers, and then come back in. Silver, wind, forest. He needs break 2, act 2, firebolt. So here we're going to channel our inner Isekai protagonist, and we're going to, wow, I never got a break 1. Break 1 is an RNG drop. If you don't get it, you have to synth it here. 9 times out of 10 you get it, but not this run. H2, Silver R, Silver Bell, and Kyria. Master Quartz. Broken Skull, Mobius, Skull Mysterious. And we're getting to the part of the run where we've already seen it, but it gets even more deadly. If you mess up any part of menus, things down the line can go very, very poorly for you.
I'm up. Let's go.
So here we're going to use that Spirit Unification Arcane Gale combo to just chunk a huge bit of his break gauge right off the bat.
I'm up. It's my turn.
And then we're going to spam Firebolt!
Let's go.
Just like any newbie in any Isekai world, we're just spam fire. It always works. I need Flamberge here.
Let's go. Let's go.
Actually, no, I didn't because I'm getting this freebie turn. Oh well. This fight should be over regardless.
I'm up. It's my turn. Yes.
Down he goes. Alright, so that is the last fight that we do that much excessive casting in. From here on out, our casts are going to be a lot more potent. In order to do massive speed casting like that, you basically have to be using the weakest spell from each element, like the weakest water spell, the weakest fire spell, and that's why we're able to get so many of them rocketed off. The reason we don't really use a stronger spell is because not only do we not have access to them by any means because we're so resource lacking, but we also just don't have the MP to spam them that hard. And the delay is so long that like you don't get to make full use of your Divine Song because all your other characters are taking their turns too. That's a really nice guard break turn.
We won't lose next time.
Makes getting into auto mode for that BP farm very quick. Guard break is a turn break or tone bonus that does pretty much exactly what it sounds. It instantly breaks the guard gauge of an enemy, or enemies if you hit multiple. And we were able to use that right there to just immediately get rid of the break gauges on the enemies and start farming BP off of them very quickly, rather than having to use a few more crafts to break that gauge and then start BP farming. So this is Stargazer Tower. This used to be the like only place to run before we knew about Out of Bounds, where there was like some manner of sequence breaking. We'll be using our assault attack off Reen here, which fires out a giant fiery sword laser thing in a crescent arc. And there's some switches later that we're going to use that ability to hit from a very, very far distance that the game doesn't really intend you to do. It wants you to go up to the switch normally and hit it, and then like backtrack to the bridge it opens. But we can hit it from a far range and skip all that backtracking.
Watch out.
This coming up here is also the hardest out of bounds in the game. And if you're slow at it, it doesn't even save that much time. Alright, we got the first part very well. Now we gotta just get back inbounds. Alright, that was pretty good. That was faster than going around the proper way.
Please be careful.
But that is the hardest out of bounds in the game, because it's two back-to-back Reens out of bounds. You have no visual cue, and you're doing it on not flat surfaces. Flat surfaces like dungeon walls typically are very easy to go through compared to like the walls in the Geofront that are very, very straight and rigid are a lot easier to go through than like a jagged surface where there's a lot of various collision that you have to try to clip through.
Seems like there's
Because what's actually happening when we're doing out of bounds is when you enable turbo in this game, instead of just moving the characters faster, it actually straight up skips rendering them and skips those animation frames. So you need to be swinging, and your character needs to be taking their step forward from that swing when the game is doing those frame skips, in order for you to disable the collision check and go through the wall. So when there's a lot more collision checks because it's not a flat surface and there's like more curves and stuff for it to check against, it's a lot harder to get through and find those few specific frames that you can skip with turbo. That's partially why you have to run this game if you're doing out of bounds at 60 FPS, because you could run higher. You could run on 165 FPS or 144, but you can't get through walls because there's not enough frames for the game to skip where you don't have collision. Like, out of bounds is a 60 FPS only trick. It's even easier at 30 FPS, but at 30 FPS, the game itself as a whole runs a lot slower, and you lose more time than out of bounds even saves running on 30 FPS. Because joys of PC ports. Scald. Wins. Nation, you here. Alright, so this is a very difficult fight. It's not, like, that bad, but it can definitely be very bad. This is a really spooky starting turn order, too. Oh, she's not dead somehow.
Leave it to me.
I need to do something.
I did lose all of my skull damage, which is really bad, though.
Yes.
Because Emma's almost dead here, she doesn't have
It's my turn.
big break damage bonus because of skull missing. I'm also not linked to Olivia.
My turn. Now. Yes.
He got a 50% HP heal, are you kidding? Oh my god.
Yes.
Yes.
It's my turn.
How did this happen?
I'm going.
Leave it to me. Yes.
Leave it to me. Now, Dark. It's my now.
Alright.
That was well.
Stinking auto, dude. The auto was my downfall there. I should auto was the right play, but the 50% HP heal that I could have avoided and had the boss dead before he got really just it punished me so hard for doing auto there. But somehow we still managed to end the fight with 5 BP, so that saves me going and grinding BP on a bomb before the next boss, which is really nice. Here, I need a very specific amount of speed on Emma, which is 72 speed, and she has that. Because that is the breakpoint for the fight. The spell we'll be casting on the next fight to have one less delay than it otherwise would, which, when you combine with having that delay, really, really, really makes a powerful difference on the fight. Give everybody some extra HP here. So this is the last fight that can really just ruin my day. Also, hi, Kitty. This boss can decide to just attack and instant kill anybody he feels like it.
Leave it to me.
He chose not to do that, so that's always nice.
It's my turn.
Alright, he continued to choose... He continued to not choose violence.
It's my turn.
That's choosing violence, my guy. Where are we at? Okay. Kyria, you.
I'm going.
This.
Leave it to me.
Catch Kyria.
It's my turn.
Okay.
It's my
So we got inflicted by the Uber Burn status effect there, which does like 70% of your health if you let it go off. So we immediately needed to cure that to have a good time in this fight.
I'm going. It's my turn. I'm going. Yes.
So that was a little rude from them, but ultimately this is going fine.
It's my turn. Yes.
Alright. For as bad as that could have gone after that Uber burn, that was like fine. Here's just a victory lap with the boss. You get some like extra teacher points and like stuff you care about as a casual player if you win this fight, but we don't care about any of that. So here we have the boss fight, the mech fight, boss fight of the chapter, and we have Liftoff again, which is a banger. This fight's very simple. You just pound his weaknesses over and over until he drops over.
Let's go.
We do have to counter with arts and guns, though. That's a very important thing you need to keep in mind, and the game is going to tell us that.
An aerial attack. Counter with arts or guns.
Thanks, Celine. By the way, Celine is the talking cat. Don't question it. It's JRPG. It's par for the course, honestly.
I'm up.
So now we do the Unite attack here. We break the boss.
Into this. I'm going.
And we start really laying into him here.
It's my turn.
It's my turn.
Use that 20% more damage taken from the break state to just basically do half of his health in a very, very quick amount of time. And just like that, we're on to Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is where the run gets really fun because we get full access now to Ash and Usei. Ash is the blonde-haired kid we're going to be running around as most of the time. As we saw in the very beginning of the run and a little bit in Chapter 2 for like 5 seconds, Ash can go out of bounds extremely easily. So, he's gonna be our main driving force of out of bounds for basically the rest of the run. Hi, kitty. My own talking cat has appeared and is determined that she wants snuggles. All right, she's found a happy home on my lap, so that's where she'll stay until the break. If you ever see me pull up that save menu accidentally, what's going on there is I'm used to every single time there's a loading screen, that there's going to be a cutscene following it. So it's very habit for me to just try to start skipping the scene as fast as I can. Here we have to answer a question correctly. So I said earlier that we don't really care about getting that AP, but we do want to try to get 150 of it before the last tally up to get a reward from it. And the reward from it is the most annoying quartz in the entire game, in my opinion. It's the Revolution Quartz. And the Revolution Quartz does more damage when you're a lower level than your enemy. And like, hey, that seems really good for a speedrun, right? Because you're extremely underleveled in this run. Reen is level 24. The new party members we just got, who are supposed to be weaker than Reen, come at 27.
Begin.
And I'll continue the explanation after this very long menu here. Forest, winds, and oh wait, you want citrus? Yeah, there we go. Skull, Scorpio, fall, speed. You're gonna get HP 2. Skulled. So here we're mostly just distributing out our match parts. We don't really need the effects off them anymore. But what we want is the experience on them. Muse and Reen want the effects, but not many others. Alright, so as I was saying, Revolution is a quartz that does more damage when the enemy is higher level than you. Again, it sounds really good. And you would think, like, natural ways you would think about it, it's like, yeah, the lower level you are, the more damage increase you get, right? No. The way it works is when you get into the battle, the character with Revolution rolls anywhere from 0 to 50% of an increase, and that is your increase for the entire battle. And that's just how it works. You get a random increase, even if you're the same level as the enemy, you get a random increase from 0 to 50%. Or rather, 1 to 50%. So there is absolutely nothing consistent in it.
Too much work. Let's just jump.
Also, as Ash said, just jump. Jumping is fast. So this is a lot of what the run is going to look like now, is just Ash going through walls. Here we're going to get to show off that strat that I mentioned. We're going to use Sledgehammer for more break damage, and then Arcane Gale. The enemy is instantly broken. And here, since we need to BP farm, we're going to link with Reen and try to get some BP back, as well as craft points.
Sure. Suppose you're some good moves, Ash.
You expect anything else?
Expect to see a lot of that combo from here on out because it's what we're going to be doing to just about every fight in the game. Oh, I bought one noodle less than I was supposed to. Oh well, we had potions, so it didn't matter. You need 190 CP to do that combo, so I needed to get Reen's CP back so that we can do that combo on this boss here.
This is a lovely spot.
Also, something to note is all damage scaling, like when I say something increases damage by 50%, all damage scaling is additive. So like if I say we have a 20% bonus plus a 50%, it's just 70. It's not 50% and then even more, you know? This is actually a really good turn over here.
I'm up. It's my turn. Let's go.
So this guy's back from like the first chapter. This time though, the fight's gonna be a little different.
It's my turn. Yes.
Let's go.
Ending with 3 VP is a little sketchy here for sure. Not the biggest fan of that, but it'll have to do, I guess. I shouldn't have crafted with Muse, that was a mistake. I should have just basic attacked. I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough damage, though. Because, like, at that point, once the Bros was broken, the fight was over, I was doing 10,000 damage with those basic needle shoots, now that we have that Scorpio Quartz, which increases damage when, increase the damage when, an enemy's broken. Here we have a mech fight for the school in this chapter. This is a mech fight you can lose. You can also try to win it. It's a pretty hard to mech fight to win. I've never tried to win it in a speedrun context, so I don't know if it's even possible. But you can lose it pretty quickly. And then if one mech fight you can lose wasn't enough, the game gives you another one you can lose. This one is even harder than the last one. This one's so hard, in fact, that the game takes pity on you and gives you a permanent strength, defense, and speed up large buff, which in a mech fight is just an insane amount of stats. And this fight is still one of the hardest mech fights in the game. Aurelia just is so cracked.
I look forward to
We cannot stand up to her. So now we head off to our field study, so we got another train section here where we just got to go through the train cars and talk to everyone that the game wants us to talk to. Mostly our new students, because Ash, in the game world, Ash and Muse just joined our class. So they've become our friends. So we must interact with our new friends. And that means not interacting with our old friends and old students. So here we're gonna do some more shopping in camp. Basically, the camp is always the same. It's like you always go over to Pablo here. You always sell a spirit increase, and you buy Reen's weapon. And then you refine Reen's weapon. However, in this camp, we're going to go over and buy fishing gear from Freddy, who's the best character in the game.
What can I get you today? Come again!
Thank you, Freddy. Fishing is the mini game in this game because no game can be Game of the Year without fishing.
Ooh, yeah.
And we'll be doing that later for a very specific reason. However, we now have one of the coolest tricks in the game. This is a trick I discovered myself. It's called Coordinate Warp. I named it because I found it. And despite being in every single Cold Steel game, it is only useful in this one. And it is only useful one time. Basically, we're going to wrong warp. we're going to go into a map after a cutscene. And the game's going to be like, okay, your characters are at these coordinates. And then we're going to transition a map and swap our characters around. And the game's going to say, okay, your characters are at these coordinates. We're going to hop back onto our bike after that and drive ourselves into the next area. And what that's going to cause is the game's going to update the coordinates for whoever the active character is at the time, and it's going to be Reen. But it's not going to update the coordinates for anybody else in the party, because the game figures we don't have to update these coordinates because they're not the active character. So what we're going to do is we're going to change our lead in the party menu rather than on the field to be a different character other than Reen. And we're going to save the game and then load the game. And the game's going to try to be like, okay, where are this character? This character is your leader. Where are their coordinates at? And since it can't find their coordinates because they're in a different map, it's going to throw us to the origin point of the map.
Let's get going.
So, as I said, we're going to change our lead to Ash, who has a different bike than Reen. We're going to save. We're going to load. And look, guys, over there, that's Ordis.
That's Ordis.
You just kind of end up at the origin point of the map, which happens to be right under our destination.
Got a need for speed. Yeah.
And then we do have to leave and trigger the cutscene we were supposed to trigger. And then we do have to do a bit of backtracking, because although we skip the movement of this entire highway, this highway does have a pickup that we need to get. Fortunately, it's the closest pickup to our destination, and since we've been to our destination, we can now fast travel back there.
Like everywhere.
So that's Coordinate Warp. Again, that works in every single Cold Steel game. It only works between maps on Cold Steel 3 and 4 and Reverie, and it only works to like on the same map in Cold Steel 1 and 2, because in Cold Steel 1 and 2, the game updates everyone's coordinates when you hit a screen transition. In this game, it only updates your leaders when you're on a vehicle. And unfortunately, despite being able to use that to get out of bounds and go to the origin point of any map that we can get into a vehicle on, it's just not useful. It's so close to being incredibly good, but it's just not, and I'm so sad about it. So there we bought a single Hot Pot from that store. We're going to be back there to buy a lot more Hot Pots later, because as I mentioned, we do have a Hot Pot addiction in this run. But we're not going to do that now. I just buy the one now because the next boss can open the fight with a CP draining move. And if that hits Reen, we can't do our whole Arcane Gale combo. And that means we're really, really, really sad, because the fight is just absolutely lost from that point, basically. So I opt to buy a extra Hot Pot there, so that
Ready to go.
if that does happen, I can just use that Hot Pot to restore Reen CP in the fight, and then just continue with the Arcane Gale
There's a beach.
and recover the fight from there.
Yuna, you're getting too work.
So we swapped to Ash here because we want to take a little trip out into the water here. And here's where we're going to do that fishing.
Wow.
We're going to fish up one of the best speed quartz in the game, because of course that's a fishing drop, right? You ever just catch a giant blue marlin and it makes you faster at everything you do? Because that's what's happening here. Is we catch this blue marlin and it gives us an action 3. That blue marlin is 100% consistent because that's the first time we're fishing at that spot. And action 3 is basically equivalent of 1,000 Dime Sepith. And for reference, we have nowhere near that much. Like, nowhere close. We could never afford an action 3 on our own. So we just have to get one for free from a fish. Here we're going to swap in Keeper. And that's for a very specific reason as well. Back to cabbage, black belt. And here's where we finally now have the spells and setup we're basically going to use for the rest of the game. We've got our Arcane Gale Sledgehammer, and then we have Cavalry Edge. There's going to be a lot going on here, so I'll try to explain it one at a time.
Let's go.
Alright, good start.
It's my turn. I'm up. Sure.
It's my turn. Here I go. Yes.
So I'll finish this fight quick, because I do need to focus on this fight. This is a hard fight.
Yes. I'm going. Yes.
I can't. Yeah. So right there, Keeper leveled up after that fight. That's the whole reason we put it on late green, is to level it up. And when you level up in this game, level up a Master Quartz in this game, the game will reset the character's stats to what they were before the fight. So basically, I used all of Reen's CP in that battle. But then since Keeper leveled up, his CP got reset to,
Let's fall back. Keep moving.
pretty sure we good enough. His CP got reset to max because of Keeper leveling. In addition, we have the spell Cavalry Edge now. I mean, Cavalry Edge is not supposed to be the strongest spell in the game, but it's actually glitched. The spell itself is broken with how they coded it. And basically, the spell has an HP drain effect on it. And in addition to, like, actually draining the enemy's HP by 10%, it just flat out adds the HP healing that it gives to you to the damage the spell deals.
They should be just
So it just does way more damage than it ever should because of that. And because of that, it's going to be the spell we use for the majority of the game, because it's a medium tier spell, which means it's easy to get the delay lowered down on it. And it does more damage than the strongest spell in the game should be doing. Yeah, just Galleon.
I'm going.
Here we're going to be using Galleon Force because Cavalry Edge's weakness is that it's a very wide range spell. So unfortunately for us, it's not very good at hitting spread out mobs like this. We're in a little pickle here with breakpoints. We would use Galleon Force there because Cavalry Edge is not very good for AoE, at least not yet. So in order to hit all the mobs in that fight at once, we have to use Galleon Force, which is still a very strong spell, but it's not busted. It's not busted like Cavalry Edge is. So I think what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to take a random encounter and try to get a little more breakpoints.
How refreshing.
Because 2 breakpoints is not enough for this next fight. I do have an item I can toss that gives me breakpoints, but I also might need that item in a more dire situation later. So we're just gonna try to get the... Alright, yeah, there we go. Easy peasy. So the next part of this section is just a lot of talking, so I'll explain that something that's going to happen a little later. We're going to be doing a boss fight that is an optional win-lose boss fight with a man named Bardius. And as I mentioned, we can either win or lose that fight. It's only a 5 to 15 second difference whether we win or lose. So I'm going to leave it up to chat to decide whether or not we win or lose that fight.
The locals never use it.
That enemy is strong. Please be careful.
And there should be a poll coming out here shortly where you guys can vote on how we handle that fight. So now that we're in Raquel, we just got to run around and talk to some people. This is Ash's hometown, so he knows a lot of people here, so we have to just go talk to all the people he knows and then visit his apartment. We're supposed to be looking for clues for Jaegers and stuff. Jaegers are kind of like mercenaries in this world.
That dog's always making a racket.
After we see all the required scenes, we can just warp out.
Got a need for speed.
So I'm watching these dogs on this road very carefully because they are notorious for trying to pull an insurance scam on me, where I'm driving my bike, they're nowhere near me, and then they just completely come out of nowhere and blindside me and get me into an encounter that I don't want.
Must take care.
We picked up a Dark Emblem earlier that gives 10 speed, and we're going to equip that on Reen here, just to ensure that Reen's going first. So we've got another quick dungeon here. This dungeon would be awful to out of bounds in, but thankfully we have Ash, so he's really easy to go through walls with. There we go. As he said before, let's just jump. So we just jump off the ledge there and down to where we need to be. This is a good turn order because Ash has his turn before Muse, which means I can get a Saintly Force out here.
I got this.
It's my turn.
So another thing that we have going on is, rather, another bug that we have going on that we're abusing at this point is, there's master quartz in this game that give you setups at the start of your turn, and like the buffs are supposed to be, oh, get 15% for 4 turns, get 30% for 4 turns, get 45% for 4 turns. Instead, due to an actual hard-coded translation error from Falcom themselves that they hard fixed on their end without actually properly fixing it in the actual game. So when the game got localized, it broke again. The Master Quartz instead give you a 1% increase for 9 turns. And what you can do with that is you can stack a normal buff on top of it. And then you just have, instead of having 4 turns of a buff, you have 9 turns of it. And that is very, very, very strong when we're casting 1.5 billion spells like we are.
I got this. Let's go.
So here we get some adults again. Yay, adults. Adults are strong. And as per usual with the adult fights, we're just going to spam some crafts.
Everyone okay?
It looks like we are going to be winning the Bardius fight,
Let's get going.
Understood.
so that'll be a good time. That is the first fight that showcases just how close we are to going infinite. Because at this point, immediately after this section here, we're going to basically start collecting the Infinity Gems for our Power Gauntlet of a caster.
Looks like a toughie. Stay on your toes.
But first we have the Vibe Frog fight, and hopefully we get to see some vibing frogs, and hopefully they don't softlock me. Alright, are they vibing? No, they're not vibing today. So these frogs can spawn in such a way that their hitboxes overlap each other, and they just start twitching and vibrating uncontrollably because the game doesn't know how to handle their hitboxes anymore. But it's unfortunately not consistent because this game has like a weird thing where sometimes mobs are bigger or smaller. Just depending on RNG, and that determines very minute things about their stats. So if you roll like big frogs, they start colliding with each other, and they just start vibrating. And it's really, really funny because they're vibrating for the whole fight. So now we're back in Raquel for a night on the town with two girls on either arm here, but we're actually here to trying to find more information about the Jaegers instead of party ourselves silly in this casino town. So unfortunately, like the responsible adults we are, we don't get to do anything too fun here. We do get to visit the casino though, but we will not do any gambling. There's some really funny cutscenes there when you play this game casually, but unfortunately, we've got to go fast, so we've got to skip through them. So here we're going to interact with another one of the game's mechanics called radio stories. This is the first time we're really doing this, but you can talk to certain people at certain times of the game for like a story you can sell to the radio, and by doing that you get U materials. So we're going to do that twice to get some extra U materials for this run. Here we're forced into Hearthstone, but thankfully this time we can just instantly lose. We can choose to forfeit. So unlike the tutorial, we can get through that Hearthstone section without even actually playing it. If we did have to play it, we would lose very quickly, though. But it's nice to just not have to play it at all. Like, the game itself is really fun once you get into it, but it's kind of, like, this game does a really good job of overloading you with new stuff as soon as you start playing it. So I didn't really ever get into the game until Cold Steel 4, when, like, I was already used to this engine.
Good work out there.
So here we get to the first instance of semi-required quests. Basically, we get 3 quests, and the game is just like, hey, we're not going to force you to do all of them, but just pick 2 and do them. So we're going to do the 2 fastest ones, which is the Bardius fight, and then this other one that's just dialogue options. And here's where any casual player will just start screaming. If you're a casual player, please close your eyes, because you're not going to like this menu. Selling all your 7th is a trail speedrunning staple, but what is not a trail speedrunning staple is what we're about to do, which is selling all of our unneeded quartz. But what if I need them? So by doing this, we're actually accomplishing 2 things at the same time. This game does have some auto-equipment menuing for you, like you can choose to auto-equip your quartz. And by doing that with very little quartz in your inventory, you can guarantee you get the quartz that you want. This also just gives us a ton of extra money.
Let's get going.
Time to ride.
So now we're going to start the quest for our first Infinity Gem. Basically, what we're doing is, I mentioned those bell quartz earlier that have your delay after casting an art of a certain type, like the water bell halves your water art delay. There's a second tier of those bells. There's the ocean bell, the epoch bell, the storm bell. Like, you can tell they're a little more like fancy sounding than a water bell or wind bell or fire bell. And they're bugged as well, because there weren't enough bugs in this game, right? Instead of having the delay for just a specific art type, like you would think it would do, it has delay for every art in the game. And another quirk about this game's system is, if there's ever a choice where the game has a 0.5 modifier on something, the game will round down. So if you can get your art's delay to 0.5, the game will treat it as 0 delay, which means you are not using any time, you are not advancing time at all, you have stopped time even, and that means you're taking infinite turns. And all it takes to do that is 4 bells. And we're about to just we just got our first one. And we're gonna set Musei up here to use that bell. And we're also going to make her really, really fast and really, really strong with the accessories we got. And since you guys wanted to win the Bardius fight, we're gonna go bully Bardius very, very hard. Because we now just have one piece of the Infinity Gauntlet. Doing Bardius' quest here gets us the second piece of it. And then we already have the Black Bell for Cavalry Edge, so that's technically our third bell. And then there's one more bell we're going to get before the actual next boss, and that will be our 4th bell. And as I mentioned, 4 bells is all it takes to get instant cast infinity spells on any character. So Reen's not a part of this fight, but thankfully for us, we can still use his orders, which means we can use Divine Song. Bye, Kurt. You tried, bud.
It's my turn. It's my turn. It's my turn. I'm going.
Sure.
I'm going.
And that's the Bardius fight. That was a near-perfect Bardius fight. This one is the one we are forced to lose. There is no way Reen is strong enough to actually fight him. But we beat the first version. You can lose that first version of the fight. And you guys voted to win it. So, that's what we did. But as you could see there, Musei's delay on Cavalry Edge, it was quick, but her delay is 2. Meaning, like a normal action gives you like 20-25 delay usually. 2 delay is very, very little delay. And 2, it's probably it's actually, I don't know what it actually is right now, but when we attach one more bell to Musei, it's going to be 0.5, which means it's going to round down to 0. So here we are now at the most important task for the entire game. We're gonna have to track Milliam, that girl with the blue hair from the very first chapter. We're gonna have to track her on Brioni Island. And this quest is so important that we are never going to complete it. Like, we will never find Milliam. She is going to be gone for the entire game. We will not be able to find her. And the reason for that is because we're gonna do an out of bounds that sequence breaks the event that would normally clear this objective off of our like tracker on the side of the screen there.
What's all that stuff to the left?
Looks like a ruin of sorts.
And it's very weird that this actually works. It took us a long time to actually figure out that this works because despite how much of a buggy mess this run is seeming like, these games are actually very, very, very well put together in terms of sequence breaking, in the sense that they really, really hard require you to do the sequence of events properly. There's really not a whole lot of sequence breaking you can do.
There's even a cave here.
So the fact that we can actually skip an event here is kind of major.
Do be careful. That enemy's strong.
In addition, with picking up the final bell on this island here, we're also going to be picking up this chest right here, which contains a master quart called Tauros. Tauros says, do 100% more physical damage. And for Reen, who's been doing that Arcane Gale combo this whole time, you know, straight up doubling the damage of that attack seems pretty good, right? Like, there is a downside to the quartz. It means your turn comes less often, but that's a good thing. That's that is actually only a good thing for us. Tauros is pretty much the most broken quartz in CS2 and 3 and 4.
I will let you know if I see anything particularly dangerous on the way.
Basically, what Tauros is going to allow him to do is we're going to stop needing that sledgehammer armor order for 200% break damage, and he's just going to straight up be able to break an enemy. But yeah, this island here is where we finally complete our Infinity Gauntlet. We get Tauros for insane damage on Reen. We get infinite cast arts on Muse and any caster of our choosing, for that matter. We have access to all the out of bounds that we want. We had the money to purchase the best speed accessory in the game, so we're supersonic lightning fast. This is my favorite area of Cold Steel, though. Like, I love this island. I love the music. I love how it's laid out. It feels like I'm playing like Yeast 8 on this island. Because while it's a dungeon, it's just like so scenic and nice. It's really cool.
Tough one.
Alright, and that chest had the last bell that we needed. So now we have all the pieces to the puzzle. Speed, break tools are... So right now, Reen is just pure built for speed and break damage. And then Muse is built straight for infinite casting arts and abusing the break state for even more arts damage. Combined with the fact that she's going to be using a broken spell that does more damage than it should, making it the strongest spell in the game. We have infinite turns with it, so as long as we have Divine Song up, the game just descends into madness from here. Like, it's just over. But first we need some naps. Because Reen had all of his CP sucked away by a vampire. Don't worry about it. It happens. It happens when you're a protagonist. You just sometimes get bitten by a vampire and you give her your life force for a little bit. Like you do. Business as usual.
I don't sense any monsters.
So here we're going to go into the bottom of the shrine. We're going to find Millium, but the game's not going to recognize that we find Millium because we didn't actually see all the events on the island. So despite the story actually letting us advance here, it's just never going to clear away that objective.
Sure. Sure.
Not bad.
3 casts and it's over. So here we have a follow-up fight with those bosses' leader. If we crit here, it's actually really bad. So it's a good thing we didn't crit. If you crit, you over-damage this boss, and she immediately goes into her second phase. And as a result of that, you don't have enough damage to kill her, because she takes reduced damage. And then she S-crafts you in the face, and you die. It's very rude. It is the definition of suffering from success. You did too much damage, okay, you lose. Here we're going to do another very quick side quest. This side quest is going to give us a Brave Soul, which is an item that allows us to immediately restore all of our Brave points, which is very, very strong. Because there's some gauntlets later on where we don't want to have to, like, grind up... we don't want to have to grind up BP between fights, so we can just use that Brave Soul. Then we're going to pick up another radio story and then report those radio stories in so that we get our rewards. We're a little low on money this run. I was only able to buy 17 hot pots, but we should be okay. Here, we're going to take another quick shower. And we're going to go into a giant gauntlet fight coming up here. This is the breakpoint between the first and second halves of this chapter. So we're going to get our adults from here on out. So we've got to basically remenu all of our people.
This is truly here. Good work.
So we're going to get into this section after skipping a bunch of scenes and then have to just do a pretty large menu. To set everybody up for the basically the remainder of the chapter here.
This
Lucy is going to give all of her stuff up to the cause. Savage, Act 2 with Dragon Vision. Here we're giving out Master Quartz so we can get... this next part is a huge jump in EXP for like basically the entire party. So putting on the right Master Quartz is a really good idea. Winds. To forest. Stare up. And we're on our way. Actually, you need winds. There we go.
Woo! Out of the way! Coming through!
There's a really bad voice line here, so we did skip it, luckily, because with good movements, you don't want to hear the voice line. It's kind of cringy. It's just not directed very well. But that happens.
leave it to me.
This is awkward. Alright, I guess we just go, huh?
Leave it to me.
Fortunately, Eustace was a little too fast here, so we didn't get to do a suction with Sarah to make this fight a little quicker. Fortunately for us, these guys are really weak still, so we can just do them pretty normally here.
It's my turn. Leave it to me. There's no time to...
This next fight we're going to do with crafts because we do need to keep our BP up through this section, so you want to do one of these fights with purely crafts, and this is the next easiest fight that's not the one we just did. So it's a good candidate for doing with just crafts.
I'm up. Leave it to me. It's my turn. It's my turn. It's my turn.
And in this section, as I mentioned, this is a huge point of EXP. Our Master Quartz is going to be leveling up a ton. And like I mentioned before, when a Master Quartz levels up, it resets your status to what it was before the fight. So we're going to be purposely abusing that here to not have to heal Reem CP after these fights for some of them.
Let's go. Leave it to me. Leave it to me.
Gotta waste a little bit of turns there to get that Analyze going.
Very well.
Alright, now we can Divine Song.
Leave it to me.
You need that suction to get these guys all together so you can just,
Very well.
you know, do so much more damage to them with Cavalry Edge than Galleon Fort. They take like 1 or 2 casts with Cav Edge and like 5 to 6 with Galleon.
It's my turn. Very well. It's my turn. No pity. There's no time to... All right.
Unfortunately, the rolls we got there for how they were positioned were pretty bad. Where Reem normally breaks that last one that I was killing. on the side with his Arcane Gale, but he was just out of range this time. Eustace, I really need you to stop being so fast, buddy.
Very well.
Because you really need to wait for Sarah to do that suction effect before you start casting.
Leave it to me. It's my turn.
Thankfully, we do have that Analyze spell, which is like, all it does is it scans the target, so it's super low delay and super easy to use to just kind of inch your turn order a little bit further than it needs to be.
They just keep on coming.
Again, we leveled up a Master Course there, so Reen's CP got all reset, which is very nice. Used to stop being so fast.
Very well.
Stop.
It's my turn.
He's so fast.
It's my turn. It's my turn. It's my turn. Very well. Very well. It's my turn. It's my turn. Leave it to me.
Move on.
I didn't get a single break off that guy. That's not ideal. Because my BP is not in a good spot right now. Alright, and this is the last fight of the gauntlet. Finally, Sarah gets a turn properly.
It's my turn.
Actually, it looks like my BP is okay here.
Leave it to me. Leave it to me. It's my turn. It's my turn. Very well.
I'd really like that BP turn down there, but I don't think I'm going to get it.
It's my turn.
Alright, I sandbagged a little and we got it, so it's all good. I did need 2 BP at the end of that fight, so to set up for the next fight we're in. And now we'll be back in the dungeon we started the game with, but things are going to be very different this time. This is the a place where Out of Bounds absolutely, just completely invalidates the game. The whole gimmick to this section is like you've got 2 parties, your old friends and your new friends, and you work together by pressing switches and opening locked doors for each other to get through the end, and then you have a climax boss battle to finish with everybody involved. And the reality of the situation is we're going to open a single door because we have to, the game forces you, and then we're just going to go through walls to do everything with one party. Because, like our good friend Ash, Eustace here can also go through walls with his assault attack very, very easily. Out of Bounds in this dungeon probably saves about 20 minutes of movement. Like, this dungeon is that long. Also, we get a funny line here.
Oh, this duct leads to another room. Too cramped for a chest of my size. Let's say we destroy the whole room instead.
I mean, let's just destroy the wall instead, she said. Sure. I agree.
An impenetrable fortress indeed. This won't be an easy
Of
task.
course it won't.
Also, yes, very impenetrable.
Well, we know the drill.
Very impenetrable fortress. I'm gonna get the UMAS for safety here. So back there, there were 2 switches, one for each side, and we pressed the other team side first, and that warped us in front of the it was like, oh, you pressed a switch with Team A. You're definitely in front of Team A's switch. So after this cutscene, we're gonna put you in front of Team A's switch. So basically, we touch Team B's switch, and then we get warped to Team A. Also, you're gonna hear some error messages here. That is the game.
Be careful.
That is the game being upset at me for using the wrong party for this battle. This is not the party you're supposed to have on this fight. It's just not.
Leave it to me.
You are not supposed to be using these characters for this battle.
Leave it to me. It's my turn. It's my turn.
I need to... This, I guess.
It's my turn. It's my turn. I will fulfill my...
And now, if you remember these guys from the very first fight, it's going to go a little bit differently this time. They're going to just instantly get broken, and then we're just going to farm for some BP.
Very well.
Wait, why are they not dead? Excuse me, girls? Alright, there we go. So, fun fact about those error messages, they actually start a very, 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 very small memory leak from the game. So, I'm basically, from this point on, the game's going to start to take a little bit longer to load everything, because it just never gets over the fact that I didn't have the right characters for that cutscene. And if you trigger that, there is a way to trigger that message as many times as you want. And if you continually do that, you will hard crash the game.
Behold the blade of the rough shelter. Ooh, looks like a tough one.
Oh, what was that? I've not seen that one before. I guess I out of bounds into the vent and then lost height for some reason and then like fell out of the vent. I don't know what happened. Either way, I was supposed to out of bounds through that wall and pick up that chest. It's usually a lot cleaner than that, but weird things happened there, so we did it a little bit slower. Here we're going to run into this door, just the corner of it to hit the load trigger, and then go back into it from the right side. Unfortunately, we have to climb up these ladders here. There's no way around them. And for some reason, in this room in particular, you can't actually out of bounds. These walls are all super dummy thick for some reason. I don't know why they made the walls in this room particularly thick, but they sure did. That's one of the very few games in the rooms in the entire game where you can't go through the walls. Gravestones, some orbs. Alright, so now we're going to slow Eustace down a bit by giving him the heavy helm. Because we want him to go last in this upcoming fight, instead of pretty close to the top. Sarah's got 60 HP, we're good. So here we're going to do the same sort of thing we did at the midpoint, where there's two switches we have to hit, and we're going to hit the ones on the other side first, where we're not supposed to be, because that'll instantaneously warp us back to the side where we're supposed to be, and we can just use that switch then. Also, Altina's going to get a line here. She's not actually here. She's way down. She's way down in the middle of nowhere. But apparently she's close.
It's my turn.
It's my turn.
Leave it to me. It's my turn.
So after getting a bit of BP off these guys, we're going to just cav edge them.
Leave it to me. Leave it to me.
And we're going to try to get a little bit more BP off her. Ah, she's dead.
I can't afford to lose.
3 BP is fine because I can just Brave Seed. You have 1 Brave Seed to spare in this run, and you pretty much always use it in this chapter. Since we didn't use it in this chapter, I can use it after this chapter to recover from not getting 5 BP off that fight. Brings up Reen and Ash and Million and Kurt. So here we have the chunkiest mech fight in the game. This guy is 3 different phases. He's so bulky that the game's just like, hey, just do 80% of his health, or do 20% and then do another like 30%, and then do the rest. And it's gonna full heal me between each of those phases, because like if you tried to fight this guy just straight up, you would not be able to win, because he's way too chunky. Also, like, he's so chunky that Reen's sword in the plot just straight up breaks when he tries to attack him. He's a chunky man. Missing that's really bad. We did miss a pretty crucial 3-star there, but thankfully, because we're getting full heal between each phase here, we have a lot of extra health to work with. Alright, on to phase 3. Now Reen uses the power of friendship to get his sword back. Don't ask me how that works, because I could not tell you. Oh my god.
My turn.
It hurts! Alright, he's broken. Broken is good.
Let's go.
Yeah, so plot-wise, Reen's sword is made from like this unbreakable metal that's unobtainable and super rare and incredibly hard. It's the hardest material known to man. And he just straight up breaks it on this boss. He snaps it in 2. But you know what? Power of friendship. Alright, so we're going to take our second break here at the end of Chapter 3.
I see more training is needed.
We get a C if we need more training. But we'll do more training after we come back from the break.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the GDQ Hotfix. Today we are showcasing the Legend of Heroes Trials of Cold Steel 3. We're in the middle of the speedrun. I'll hand it right back over, and we'll take it away.
Alright, we've just gotten to the end of Chapter 3. We've already bent the game underfoot, and we're going to continue to do so for the rest of the run. So let's get to it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. So in true school teacher fashion, we're back to our school life, and just like any game with a school life, we've got midterms to do. Straight out of Persona, we've got to pick the right dialogue options. Even though we're the teacher this time, we're not the ones taking the test. We've got to still answer the right test questions. But first, we do actually get to tutor our students. So that's something you don't do in Persona. Normally in Persona it's the other way around, where you study with your classmates and you gain bond rank and all that stuff. This time we're the teacher teaching them, but it still saves the same purpose gameplay wise, where it's like, hey, you're going to be asked these questions on the next upcoming section. Here are the answers that you're teaching them yourself. We're going to do an extra cutscene right here to get some bonus AP. That ensures I can get that Revolution course that I talked about in case something else messes up. I do a wrong dialogue option or somewhere. You don't need the Revolution course because it's so unreliable in the first place, but it can save you a turn or two here or there, so it's still worth getting. 2 and 3, 3, 1, 4. 3, 2, and 1. Hooray, we did it. We answered the questions. We got Master Quartz glitch off the last fight, so Rain's already at full CP, which is really nice. And here's that part I talked about where we're going to scam our students. We're going to go to this exchange shop, and we're going to buy a deck of cards for 5,000 Mira. And that's not very much. That's like $5. And we're going to take that, and there's a certain student at our school who has been searching for that deck of cards for his entire life, and has set his life savings aside to buy them of 100k Mira. And, I mean, we could be a good teacher and just give it to him for free. Or we could take the 100k. Guess what we did?
Oh no, that poor kid.
And that is basically going to fund the rest of our activities for the rest of the game. Here we're going to set up Muse again because we had to de-equip her from the last setting. And we're also going to set up Tita here, who is a guest character for this section. We kind of want her to be a little faster than everybody else because she could potentially get a turn and try to get us some extra BP with that turn.
Understood.
Okay, missing that out of bounds right there is really costly because then the enemy behind you gets into an encounter with you. So it was good that we got that first try. So here I'm going to attempt to try to toss a Brave Seed. We do have the turns to actually do so. So that's really nice.
Thanks for the help.
And that'll basically settle our BP issues for this section.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're just going to rely on, you know, the old Muse Cavalry Edge. We don't necessarily need to break enemies at this point, at least in this dungeon, because they're pretty weak, and the boss in here has a weakness. It has a time weakness, and Cavalry Edge is a time art. So on top of doing the most damage out of any spell in the game, it just does even more damage.
What's one of Ouroboros' archaisms doing here?
So something I haven't really shouted out for during this run is the community. We do have a entire speedrunning community for these Trails games, as well as some other titles that are similar. Stuff like Nauyuta and the Legend of Heroes series. There is a separate speedrunning Discord for the Yeast series, which is also from Falcom. And everybody in the communities we're super welcoming, super helpful. We're always looking for people who want to try out these games because there's not many of us, unfortunately. And these games deserve a ton of speedrunning love, despite their length and their complexity. They're a ton of fun to run. I myself have experience running every single one of the games. I forgot to say it, of course, there, but it still worked out, so. I've ran the entire series. Even just the start of this month, I did a marathon march of all 10 Trails games that have been localized in 2 streams for speedrunning. It took 38 hours? Or no. No, I think it took 42. It took a lot of hours, but less than 2 days. So here we have to set up Sarah to be our caster for literally one fight.
Let's go.
We have a bad turn order, so we need to spam Analyze to delay Sarah's turn just a little bit here, so that we can get some more BP. And now that we have BP, we can just go into Divine Song and finish it off. These are the 2 strongest swordsmen in the entire country, and that's what we just did to them. Granted, they were kind of weakened after they fought each other basically to the death. So you know, plot-wise, they weren't at their full strength. But, I mean, even if they were, the outcome would have been the same. And here we have the school mech fight. This one can be a little bit of RNG.
Let's go. My turn.
Because there are some 3-star patterns here.
It's my turn.
My turn.
Oops. Also doesn't help if I mess up.
Let's go.
Not yet.
Leave it to me. It's my turn.
My turn. Let's go. I got this. My turn.
Down it goes. This is the harder version of the fight because we only have Reen. A mistake here is pretty much death. Also, bad RNG here is death.
It's my turn. Power diminishing. Let's go.
But as long as we don't get any 3-star attacks here, this is a scripted fight, so...
Let's go.
Cannon pointing down is right arm. Alright, and that's the last bit of RNG on this fight, so we're good to go here. Alright, and that concludes the school portion of Chapter 4. It's very quick. Quick and easy. Hello, Cap. Goodbye, Cap. As per usual, gotta talk to people on the train. We know the drill by now. And like always in camp, we're going to buy ourselves some weapons and then refine them. We're also going to head over to Tita and unlock Musei's last 2 slots so that we can give her even more quartz to enable we can further enable the silly nonsense we're already doing to get even stronger with that.
Have a look-see. You will. Thanks. You will. Come again. Just tell me what you need.
Here we're gonna buy a bunch of accessories. That guy sells like missable stuff that you like kind of really want, that you can collect throughout the game. We could get them when we're supposed to get them, but like we can just also just get them now, all in one place. Because one of the main systems in this game that we haven't really touched in the speedrun context is like you can collect accessories, and you can. If you collect certain types of them, you can trade them in for much stronger accessories. For example, for the course of this run, we've been using Proverb's Swift Wind for 5 speed, and occasionally Proverb's Gentle Forest for 10 magic attack. We can, if we have the other 2 Proverbs, Solid Mountain and Fierce Fire, and we just bought the Fierce Fire ones. If we have all 4 of those Proverbs, we can exchange them for Proverbs War, which gives you 75 to all stat and 10 speed. And we're gonna do exactly that. We're gonna purposely pick up the Proverbs in this shop over here and then exchange them for that Proverbs War that's just obscenely so much stronger. But like, it's an investment. You have to wait till this end part of the game to get it, and if you miss the normal location, you can only get them from that guy we bought them from at an increased price.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
But that's gonna help take care of our accessory needs for about the rest of the run. Yeah, I'm only at 10 U materials here. I think I'm okay. I might just grab the ones in Dark Dragons just to be safe. Because I still need one more set of U materials to make an attack 3 EX orb a little later to boost my mech strength. Muse, Pandora, Scorpio, All Magic, Action 3, and Deep 2. Proverbs, still blue, and Proverbs. So we also picked up the Master Quartz Pandora. Pandora causes your spells to cost double the amount, but in return, it more than doubles the damage of your spells. And,
Don't hear any.
I mean, we've already been doing an insane amount of spell damage, and now we just flat out double it. So, bosses from this point are basically going to take 1 or 2 hits from our magic, and they're going to go down. Because we've combined the effect of do more damage when an enemy is broken with do more damage with your arts to just get a huge amount of damage modification on our already strongest spell in the game, that is instant cast, and infinity. You can cast it basically an infinity amount of times without anybody else taking a turn. And this is why this category is a thing, is because instead of just going through this game and S-crafting everything to death, it's just so much more fun and interesting to me to do this without S-crafts, because this game is broken in so many other ways that you can abuse to get through these fights.
I believe that wanted monster is just
Here we just have to go fight a giant dinosaur thingy. We're going to use this guy because he's such a chump as a BP farm, because we are out of BP and we kind of need some BP for this chapter.
It's my turn.
So we're going to do the usual Link to Reen and use a craft to get some damage off. He's getting a little weak, so...
Let's go.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Let's go. Got a need for
Alright, so we didn't get the 5 BP there, which is a little sad, but I'm sure we can find a way to do something about that later. I don't have a Brave Seed I can toss this time. I need the rest of the Brave Seeds I have for a Gauntlet later, where we're just going to be doing like fight after fight where we just have to spam Divine Song. So we rescued a teacher from the old game named Thomas. He doesn't do anything. The game tries to like size him up. He's like, oh yeah, he's a really powerful dude among the church, and he's also a teacher, and he's really smart, and he just never does anything. Like he just doesn't. It's always a meme when he's on screen. So here we're gonna buy a bunch of curry. And curry is going to take the place of hot pots because we've almost used through our hot pots. We bought like 25 of them early and we've almost used them all up. So we need some more, and curry fills the same exact role as hot pots. So we're going to swap our hot pot addiction to a curry one. So here we're going to bet on a horse race because, of course, as a responsible teacher, we take our students to bet on horse races. I mean, in truth, we're here to talk to the manager of this area. But they're like, hey, he's busy, come back after the race. So we're like, might as well bet on it. Also, we still need to find Millium on Brionia Island. We still have not found Millium. Or Millium. So they've been hearing some weird noises coming from the sewers under the city. So, you know, if there weren't enough sewer dungeons in video games and the Geofront wasn't enough of a sewer dungeon, we have another sewer dungeon to go through.
Now,
Only this one's really spooky. But you can see it's all nicely modeled. Right? You can look at these nice, thin, straight walls that are easy to go through. Oh no, look, there's giant ghosts in the underground sewer. That's normal, right? Everybody just has sewers that are haunted. So we would just go through the walls here very easily. In this next room, there's actually a bridge that you need to lower. Like the game expects you to lower it to proceed. We're not going to lower it because we go through walls. But if you don't lower that bridge and you don't know Reen can go out of bounds, you actually soft lock your save file like way later into the run. Which is why we used to have to use that that switch, but we no longer need to because I forgot to heal Reen's CP. This is bad. All right, Reen. Just don't die. Right? Just don't die.
It's my turn. I can keep going. Beat yet. I can
All right,
keep
easy.
It's my turn.
Easy every time.
Let's go.
all right.
Also, that was secretly optimal because, wait, why does, let's say, oh no, wait, yeah, we're not supposed to have Tommy in here. That was secretly optimal because it got me a BP turn, which fixed my whole BP issue. And I wouldn't have gotten that BP turn otherwise, if I had done that fight the correct way. So, secretly, that was all according to Keikaku. Keikaku means play.
I found some treasure.
So there we pick up another one of those tier 2 bells. We don't need it on Muse right now, but we're going to need a double caster set up later on into the run. So we still need to be collecting those infinity gems.
Let's go.
I'm going.
So this part, we find these Jaegers underground here, and we just one-shot them because we're so strong. But they somehow manage to run away from us. And this initiates a whole chase scene here. And, like, they're supposed to outrun you. They're supposed to move faster than you. But, unlike speedrunners, they move suboptimally. And, the goal for this section is, like, you just have to have them in your sight. Like, the camera needs to be on them.
This should be the way.
When the timer runs out and you reach your end goal. We're gonna do a little bit better than that. Because, they don't know where they're running. I know where we're running. And the voice lines are really funny.
Come on, no one's this fast.
We need to find some way to catch up.
Having a nice stroll, my lads?
Instructor, this direction is...
I know. We've gone too far south. This is clearly out of city bounds.
So you can just straight up pass them, and the game doesn't penalize you for it. You're supposed to struggle catching up with them, but you can just outpace them. It reminds me of like those cartoons where it's like the character's like chasing after a villain, and then a bigger monster or a bigger villain shows up, and they end up running past the villain because they're more scared of the bigger villain than the smaller one. Because, like, we're supposed to be chasing down those guys and capturing them, and we run straight past them. Alright, so now we have a ton of cutscenes in a row. Like, an absolute ton of cutscenes in a row. So if you didn't take a break before, now is the time. Now is the time. Because this is pretty much the biggest section in the game of run around and talk to, like, literally every person that's actually a named character. And I say named character, one of the things about Falcom games, if you've not played this series before, and you've been on the fence about it, is every single NPC is named. They may not all be, like, fully unique, but they all have their own lives, their own story, and throughout the games and the chapter even, you can find them in different areas of the game, talk to them, and see what they're doing in their day-to-day lives. It's so much content that's just so enriching for the world. Like, there's entire subplots about NPCs that you don't even get to see unless you talk to this random NPC in the corner of this screen. And there's, like, no indicator. It's just like, they're having a bad day or something. Or they're griping about work, and then next day they're like, oh, they quit their job and they're looking for a new one. It's insane. The games and Falcom have done an extraordinary job of making this world feel like it's alive. Because it is. It's the same world. It's the same story. Stuff in this game has callbacks to the very first game in the series, which is 8 games ago. The plot is still relevant. The characters, everything is still relevant from 8 games ago. It's ridiculous. It's single-handedly the most well-thought-out and best story continuity that I've ever seen in video games. Alright, so now we've talked to all the required people. Now we just have to do some side quests. Which, you guessed it! We're gonna do the fast ones, which involve just talking to people. And also, if you're looking for a place to start this series, you can, there's 2 main entry points at this point. There's Cold Steel 1, which is, more modern. It's 3D like this game. It is a bit more anime. Which, I mean, if you're fine with that, you're fine with that. If you're not fine with that, it's still a really good game. Don't let that deter you in any way, shape, or form. I promise you it's worth it. And then there's Trails in the Sky. First chapter, which is a much slower burn of a game, but it is a better story. It is definitely a little dated and a little more tedious. There's not nearly as much quality of life. But the characters are ones that people play with, and so many people, by the end of the game, are crying. Because the story has gotten them so into the game that the cliffhanger they pull at the end of it just completely emotionally destroys you. Like, it does capped out emotional damage. And in the best ways possible. In the ways there, it's like, I can't stop. Like, I just stayed up late to finish this game, and now I just have to go buy the next one and keep playing because I can't stop on this note. I can't stop here.
Well, this ain't right.
It's giving me the creeps.
I've heard so many people, I've seen so many people beat the first game, see those final cutscenes, and they're just like, well, I guess I'm playing the next game right now. I guess I'm literally downloading this right now.
Switch. Leave it to me. I'm going.
I'm up.
It's my
Oh,
turn.
what's that? Interesting.
It's my turn.
All right, that was a little bit scuffed. So here we have the longest dungeon in the game. There's going to be a huge menu here because we have 3 parties to set up this time, not just 2. And we actually have to do a lot more menuing here. Uses Lisa, Elliot, Gaius, Marcus, Elliot. And yeah, Cold Steel 1 will also do the same thing to you. You'll get to the end of Cold Steel 1, and then you'll be like, well, I guess I'm downloading Cold Steel 2 right now, because the game did not give me a choice in the matter. It destroyed me. Like, these games are just so ridiculously good. Evolution, Black Bell, Pyre, Act 3, Storm, and Silver. Scorpio Main, Gaius, Tempest, Scorpio. B gets Sirius Tauros. So we have 3 parties here, and you may have guessed from that the boss of this section is a 3-phased fight. So we need 3 teams fully set up to deal with that fight. So we're setting up Elliot here. He's finally getting his chance to shine as a caster. He needs cabbage, actually. Okay. As a caster, we've got Sarah as a caster, and then we have Fee as a dodge tank. The first phase of the fight, we are just going to completely deal with dodge tanking, because the first phase only uses physical attacks. So I can abuse that by having a character with 100% dodge rating, and then a bunch of quartz that says when you do more damage when you counter. And she'll take care of the entire first phase for us. True Glad and Heavy. Elliot. Still Blue War. So this dungeon has 3 parts to it. All 3 parts are built around having 3 teams. We're gonna do some silly stuff with that, but like this first section is like each team has a switch in its section that like opens the door to the next area for a different party. We're just gonna, you know, do what we've been doing the whole run and go through the wall instead because it's faster. Also, I need you guys to keep in mind that we have come to we've come to the outer wall. All right, just keep it in your head.
Come to the outer wall.
It's as though this place is the Dark Dragon's castle. I wonder how much farther we have to go.
We still have a ways to go. Keep it up.
Okay, but what if we've come to the outer wall and this place was the Dark Dragon's castle?
We've come to the outer wall.
It's as though this place is the Dark Dragon's castle. I wonder how much
We
farther
still have
we
a
have
ways
to go.
Keep it up.
So, the game doesn't actually have specific lines for anything, it just checks if you've reached a certain point. So, we double trigger that dialogue line there. Because we come over here to pick up that Skanda gem, which is the largest speed boost item in the game, in terms of quartz. And we'll be giving that to Reen a little later. So this section also has a thing about switches and like opening pathways. This one has a bunch of orbs in the lower level of it that open these doors. And there's like 18 of them. It's awful. Just go through the door. Just go straight through the door. Out of bounds in this dungeon alone saves 25 minutes because of how much freaking movement there is to do this place legitimately. It's absurd. This dungeon takes so long if you don't go through the walls. And we're not even done breaking this dungeon yet. That's the best part. So the game normally is like, okay, you've opened all the doors and you've reached the end with a party. We're going to lock you out of that party. So what I just did there was I finished the Team A route with Team C. But Team A is still back at the beginning, and the game knows that. But it says Team A route is done. So by swapping back to Team A, the game gets really, really, really confused and just... It says, like, oh, you finished with Team C, and you're trying to use Team C again, which we were supposed to lock you out of. I guess you cleared the entire dungeon. Well, here's the end of it. So we don't even ever have to use any of the other parties. You just have to finish with one team on the wrong pathway and then try to swap to that team. Alright, so here's the dodge tank fight. Fee's just going to go hard. We're going to use Tri-Cyclone to make it so she never gets a turn again, because the delay is so high on it. And then we're going to buff up her strength, so she hits really, really, really hard. All of her counters do 300% damage, and she has a strength up large buff, and they always crit. So she's just going to absolutely decimate the boss. Here, we don't have Divine Song usage, unfortunately, because Reen's not a part of his team. However, we have the next best thing. We have arts costing 80% less, and a spell called Chrono Burst, which immediately lets us take 2 actions. That means our spells are effectively instant cast, and then since we have those 4 bells on Elliot here, he doesn't have any delay after casting, so we can just continue to cast arts on the boss until it goes down. Here we do the standard Arcane Gale. It doesn't actually break this boss, but I don't need it to break the boss because Sarah just goes burn. And that's going to be a theme, is Sarah going burr for a little while now. Here we have a mech fight with this dragon.
It's my turn.
And this fight's more or less a victory lap. It's a very easy fight. You really have a hard time losing it. But you can do it well to go faster. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So after this fight, Reen's ex-boyfriend is going to show up. And he's given into the power of 8th grade syndrome and has a mask. And he's now the Azure Siegfried. And he's all edgy, and he's going to challenge us to a fight, and he's like, oh, you're so tired from fighting that dragon, you don't want to fight me. And Reen's just like, you know what? I am sick of your BS. We are going to ruin your day.
It's my turn.
And that's exactly what we're going to do. He's not going to eat 1 Arcane Gale, but he's going to eat 2 Arcane Gales. For good measure. So now we have another walk-around section. This is supposed to be like a giant festival in the game. You're supposed to have fun with all your party members and build everlasting bonds and all that friendship doohickey. Unfortunately, the game does force you to do some events, so we do have to see the same Mishi show 5 times in a row, because that's the fastest show to go through. So we're just going to talk to this patron here and watch this stage show with Mishi, which is Falcom's mascot and like a big in-game thing in both this game and the Crossbell games. Like, there's a whole amusement park dedicated to Mishi in these games. And a lot of the characters have Mishi obsessions. And then we're going to get a call from this guy named Lecter. And yeah, you can start with Sky or Cold Steel, Trails in the Sky first chapter. It's just called Trails in the Sky. Or you can start with Cold Steel 1. Before you get to this game, Cold Steel 3, you really, really need to have every game before it under your belt, though. Like, you can do Cold Steel 1 and 2 just fine on their own. They're pretty standalone. Once you get to Cold Steel 3, you really want to have that Crossbell and Sky knowledge. Also, we're going to do some more out of bounds here. This is the gauntlet I was talking about. There's just a bunch of refights with bosses from throughout the game at this section, and Sarah's just going to go burr for all of them. We're going to link with Olivier here, because Olivier has art support as his support abilities, which, you know what the art support does? It increases your art damage, because we needed more of that. Some of these monsters you can straight up one-shot with the right art support buff and a crit. So once again, just going through the walls with Reen here. Reen is the only character in this entire party of like 8 characters that can actually go through walls. And unfortunately, it's pretty hard for him to go through walls on his own. We'll be getting Ash a little bit later in here, but not before it really matters. At that point, out of bounds just don't save too much time once you have him back in this section. Also, we still haven't found Milliam. She's still on Brionia Island somewhere.
Over there. I got this. Yeah. I got this.
I was so close to the one shot there. That was a damage roll, man. Oh, that boss has about 70,000 health, and I did 69,000 with one attack. I messed up there. I was supposed to Brave Seed with Reen, so I was thinking, how do I fix that? And the answer is pretty simple. I can just Chrono Burst on this next fight and get 2 Reen turns. Really good out of bounds with Reens. Those are some of the hardest too, so having those go really well was nice. Brave Seed, Brave Seed.
Thank you.
It's my turn. Yeah. I got this. Let's move on.
So this out of bounds right here, we are mandatory to do. We cannot skip this one because we are technically soft locked at this point in the game. We didn't lower the bridge in the in this area. So if we try to go through this area normally, we just do not have a way forward. So we have to out of bounds here to get to the end. It's faster to do so anyway, so it's not like it matters. But it was something that prevented us from doing a bit of a different movement route before.
Yeah. I got this. Yeah. Let's move on.
All right.
Alright, so now we got 2 more out of bounds with Reen for the rest of the run here. One is through this wall. There we go. I'm going to take the time to heal Reen's CP now just to be safe. So unfortunately, there is a cutscene trigger over here. Like, we can't just go straight to the final boss of this area. We've got to hit this cutscene trigger. Fortunately, this is the trigger that gives us Ash, so we can immediately put him in and make him the leader and go through walls a lot easier. As so. So we can just head straight to the end of the dungeon from here without too much problem. We are short a BP here, unfortunately. That's generally how it goes So I'm not going to be able to Raging Fire on this guy, which means I might not break him, which means things could get a little spicy, but Sarah has a turn anyways, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's my turn. I got this. Yeah. It's my turn.
And down he goes.
Let's move on.
This game is one of the worst games to start with. And Nisa marketed this game as, oh, you can start with Cold Steel 3. Any fan of the series will tell you, you really cannot start with this game. But it was the first game that Nisa localized instead of Xseed. So, like, I get why they had to market it that way. It's because they were the new publisher. But that is not the case. So here we have the biggest talk to everyone section in this game. We've got to go around this dance party and talk to pretty much every NPC we've met throughout the game that is, like, actually remotely important. And there's going to be something that I'm going to ask you guys to remember about this section in a little bit. It's going to be very important you remember it. All right, we're almost done talking to everybody. Surely that's the max amount of people that you have to talk to. Oh, hey, we found Million, even though she's still on Brionia Island. Surely we talked to everyone, right? Nope, we gotta do a whole nother round of talking to everybody. Hey, look, it's Million. She's back from Brionia Island, even though she's still on Brionia Island. It's amazing. Yeah, the best way to play these games is honestly in Japanese release order, in my opinion. Like, some people say Zero and Azure, or like the Crossbow games spoil Cold Steel 2 and 1. Some of them say the opposite, where Cold Steel spoils Zero and Azure. It doesn't matter. You're not going to get... It's not a big deal, ultimately. Oh no, I missed it.
End of the hall, then make a right.
I missed it. I'm sorry, guys. So what I forgot to do was I was supposed to talk to Cedric for you guys there. He was the prince in the red outfit.
The back room.
And he says that, like, Reen's an overbearing brother character because we were protecting people from talking to our sister. And he was seeing that side of us for the first time. And that's the thing you need to remember. You need to remember that he was talking about us being an overbearing brother. So now we're on the final chapter. This is the longest section of cutscene skips in the game. We have 8 skips. And then there's going to be a gate that the game is very proud of that we can't skip. Now we have to skip 17 scenes in a row.
Oh my god, really? That sounds brutal.
We're still skipping scenes. The games after this, Cold Steel 4 and Reverie, introduced a feature that allows you to skip all cutscenes at once. It's very nice. They learned from what they did in this game. My poor thumbs.
I can imagine people skipping like 17 to 20 cutscenes in a row. We're not happy about it.
Oh, the sky is making me uneasy.
Yeah, this is basically the huge plot dump of the game.
The spirit veins are
Or
lost
rather,
too.
what's going on there is, like, there's one cutscene happening, but you're seeing it from so many different angles. And those angles all count as a different cutscene. So it's like, you transition it, they say 2 lines, it transitions to a different point of view, they say 2 lines over and over and over again, and that's why there's so many scenes there.
The Heimdall Cathedral.
It feels oddly quiet around here. Let's go inside after we finished any.
This here, these cutscenes here, is the actual lore dump. This is where the game just dumps the lore on you and starts the final act of this game into motion. Which, basically, the final act of this game here is the heralding of the end of the world. You know, normal JRPG things. You need Scorpio. Musei. All. Dark Emblem. Seren. So here we're going to use that Brave Pill we picked up because we need all of our Brave points back for the end of the game.
Let's go.
Yeah. It's my turn.
And then we do the standard Sarah. And they do go down 2 casts. And now we have a party that's not with Reen, unfortunately. So we actually need to do a little bit of setup here. We're going to take our boy Dudley, Machias, whatever you want to call him. I need the Abyss Shadow. Sloppy. It's getting a little late. Serious Zephyr, auto speed. Put him in. I was like, do I have a good Brave order here? And it's I don't.
Now, you want me to thank you?
My turn.
So now we go into our Chrono Burst nonsense here.
Yeah.
And it's super important you target the Knight in this fight with your Cavalry Edge because Elliot doesn't have Pandora main corpse. He has it as his sub-corpse. And that means he's not getting the huge, massive range boost that Pandora gives. So in order to hit both of these targets at once, you have to target the Knight.
Now.
Because the cat is just a little too fat. Down it goes. So now we're going into one of the best final dungeons in Kiseki, not for its design, but for its music. The song you're about to hear is absolutely excellent, and I really regret we don't get to listen to it for longer, because just like everything else, we're going to out of bounds and break the game. So there's 3 tiers of this dungeon, basically, and like 3 boss fights the game wants you to do. We're gonna do one of them because all the triggers for the bosses are active as soon as you enter the dungeon instead of having to go sequentially. I don't know why, but we can fall through the floor there and completely skip to the final fight of the 3 fights the game wants you to do. And this is the fight that sets the plot flags for the final boss. And this is also a really good song that we're not going to get to hear at all. I really do apologize for this. Like, this song's not even going to get to start before we finish the fight.
It's my turn. It's my turn. It's my turn.
Now. Yeah. Now. My turn.
Can't fall here.
Yeah.
Let's get.
Like, I really am sorry. This is such a banger of a song. But, like, we don't even get out of the intro of it. Like, the beat doesn't even drop. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I don't need to heal Reen CP, that's nice.
All right.
Alright, so now we're in the final layer of the final dungeon. We can still go through the walls and still go down a little further. That saves a lot of movement right there. And now we get to do some really, really funny shenanigans. We're gonna say hi to the final boss a little bit earlier than we should. And I mean that in the funniest of ways. Because he's just chilling at the bottom of this area. And we're just gonna go say hi, bud. How's it going, friends? You doing good? Everything going alright? Yeah? You guys, what do you have to say? Oh, I can't talk to you. Hello. But Cedric, hi, how's it going? Ah, yes, we are indeed an overbearing older brother. Altina, how you doing? How you doing, Altina? Oh, I can't talk to you? I can make your head twitch, but I can't talk to you. But you know what I can do? I can play cards with you! We're not gonna play cards with her. Alright, moving on. This game is held together by duct tape. Alright, on to the final boss. There's a bunch of phases of this guy. Fortunately for this fight, we just get a permanent boost of strength and
It's my turn.
speed. So we can break the boss with the Outer Arcane Gale nonsense. And then we swap into Divine Song and Musei go burr.
It's my turn. I'm going. Yes. It's my turn. Yes. Now their turn.
My turn. There.
And down the first phase goes. Now we have a mech fight. This fight is completely consistent as long as I don't mess up.
It's my turn. My turn.
Here I go.
Thanks.
All right.
Let's go.
I'll handle him.
Let's go.
It's my turn.
Thanks.
All right.
And it's really nice that this guy's completely consistent because he does a lot of damage. But fortunately, early on in the fight, he only uses attacks that have guarantee unbalances. So we're able to basically script out the entire fight from there.
I'm up.
Attack,
Very well.
Rain Slash.
Here I go.
It's my turn.
The only thing that's RNG is this section right here is if Laura was slow, you don't always get the Radiant Wings out to finish, but you can finish with a Rain Slash and a Shadow Rise, no problem. Alright, so we have the final phase of the final boss coming up here. Time will be on the screen fading to black. After the fight's over. This fight is just another victory lap fight. Because the boss is weakened, Reen's gone completely insane. like absolutely nuts. He's lost all control. And he's giving the enemy a bad time. Wait, what? Excuse? Alright, there we go. And again! And time. We never found Millium on Brioni Island. So definitely gonna skip all the scenes here because very big spoilers. Basically the end of the world just happened. It's okay. There's a game after this, right? The wait between this game and CS4 was a brutal time.
Oh my god, they left you on a cliffhanger like that? That's rough.
So it's not even just a cliffhanger like that. We'll skip ahead here a little bit.
Keep him there.
The ever-mutant.
So this is the cliffhanger they leave you on. Reen's captured.
Now, Reed, let us begin. Together we shall write the end to this wretched fairy tale. In ink, black as despair.
And that's just it. That's the cut. If I had movies turned on, which I meant to put on, this would be the credits.
That's certainly a cliffhanger to leave y'all on for, yeah, wow. That's brutal.
Yeah, it certainly is. So I'd like to thank everybody for watching today. I'd like to thank everybody at GDQ for helping me get on. It's been my first time and it was an absolute blast. I hope the run was a great showcase for you all. Definitely, if you're interested in these games, check out our community for speedrunning. If you're interested in them casually, absolutely start with Cold Steel 1 or Sky FC. They do go on sale basically every single Steam sale for various amounts. And they're just the best games I've ever played.
I think your run was absolutely fantastic. I think you nailed it. It was a absolutely wonderful showcase that you put on. So thank you so much for being on and showcasing the game.
Actually, we do have. I do have one quick thing to show off. Do I have a?
Yeah, go for it.
I need to find a save. I certainly have a save. All right, this save will work. So, in this game, there's, you know, we've done a lot of out-of-bounds shenanigans, but sometimes it's fun to see behind the scenes, right? So if you go all the way down here, this is where we fought the final boss. If you're out of bounds over this wall over here, and you go way out into the void, you can find this. And that up there, my friends, that is the cockpit of our mech. That is where the game's camera is when we are in cutscenes. And the one in the distance there is the other character's mech you saw.
That's
just
wonderful.
assets that are just chilling over here.
I mean, I guess it makes sense for
also,
them to do it like that.
Wait, what is this save? How do I... Hold on. Wait, why do I have two Usus in my party? Wait, what is this save? Excuse me? Why are there two Usus in my party? Interesting. That I didn't even notice that. But yeah, that's all I've got. Thank you for having me on. Very much appreciated, and you can take it away whenever.
Awesome. Yeah. No. Like I said earlier, again, thank you so much for being on for showcasing the game, and I really appreciate having you on. With that said, we don't have any other content for you tonight. We are going to have more shows for you tomorrow. We are going to have PB Precipice followed by a showcase of Ratchet and Clank going to Commando. That's going to be starting at 1 p.m. Eastern. And we're going to take a quick break while we look for somebody to raid. So if you wouldn't mind just sticking around and cheering on somebody else in a speedrun, that would be awesome. Have a great night, everybody.